and right to the very parking spot you want. So it's a great bit of technology, and when you look at it, boy, it's pretty cheap, you know. It's pretty cheap. As long as you got an internet connection, you can put in what you want. Anyway, sir, we're coming up onto the Red Cross building, so we'll be out there now in a second. I guess you're hot on the heels, are you?
Yeah, I'm right behind you. Listen, Don, you're there next to the building all the time. You looked up at those guy wires? I think they flap in the wind, hey? They need to tighten up.
What's that?
On the antenna on top of the Red Cross.
Oh, I never noticed it.
Yeah, in the daylight next time to take a look. Whenever we get an opportunity on a nice day, we're going to have to go and tighten them a bit. I think they definitely flap around.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. Anyway, I'm here, so I'm back into my parking spot, I suppose, and I think they're all out in the big room out there.
Yeah, right on. I'll be right behind you now. I just hit the 70 kilometers an hour here on Portugal Road. V1XH, V1CRP, and I'll see you shortly, 73.
See you shortly, 73. Yeah! Fucking right, man.
73, V1XH.
Hello, YouTube. My name is jamespfp. This is the Banjocast. Forks and flaming torches. Hey, I've got GQRX.
V01CRP, V01DOE, Delta Oscar Echo.
Yeah, V1DOE, V1CRP.
Yeah, hi, I was talking to Lauren earlier tonight, about an hour ago, and I was telling her I was planning to make the meeting tonight, so, but my plans have gone south, so I unfortunately won't be able to make my first ADRAC meeting tonight, but I'll catch the next one. If you could pass that along for me, Paul, I believe, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, no sweat. You have to give me your name again, no, I've forgotten it.
No problem, it's Lyndon, Lima Yankee November, Delta Oscar November. I was planning to go to the meeting tonight, but unfortunately I won't be able to make it. But I'll try again next time.
Passing the
Yeah,
message.
right. Of course you're Lyndon. That makes total sense now. Yeah, I'll pass it along. No sweat there, and you're more than welcome to come to any meeting we have. If you don't make the next one, make the next one after that. It's all good, sir. Anyway, enjoy your night. I'm almost to our meeting. I'll say 73, V1DOE, V1CRP.
Yeah, 73 to you, Paul. V01 CRP, V01 DOE, clear.
73. Yeah, notice 73 is one of those radio codes. I've also been watching how there's rebroadcasting occurring on other channels here. This one is the VO1GT Gould's Tower. I also noticed that sometimes you'll see echoes from this current one we're listening on the sides of the scope. And another thing I did was to change the controls here to allow for this window to be a little bit bigger. And now I get a bit of a waterfall display underneath this display as well. It's nice to see both of these scopes, in other words, as waterfall displays. We'll keeping an eye on these sets of frequencies right here. And I'm in between doing things tonight. I might well flip it back over to monitoring air traffic and not doing a lot of music. We'll see what else is happening here on the ham radio tonight. There'll be a bit of an echo if I don't. I gotta be riding the damn microphone, essentially. Oh, I see something else I did wrong. I'm gonna be right back. See how this goes. Might have been a short bump there. Should have been a real short bump. Yeah, it says it's reporting good on this side. I figured something out. The last couple of days. I kind of knew ahead of time that it was going to be this way. But I definitely get better performance if I don't rely on my Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi sayonara. That last broadcast was here on this tower. I've been listening on that one. On either this one or this one. And what's occurring is the people that have ham radio licenses are sending signals to these stations who are rebroadcasting them to be much louder. So they get repeated. These are the repeating. Oh, look at that. Beautiful, eh? Beautiful. I think this is pretty much the same waterfall as up here, though. I have some controls over this, which I didn't realize. I think I might prefer it on the waterfall side, but... So, YouTube, I wonder how you're doing this evening. Me, I'm doing great. See that the health got a little bit bumpy there a minute ago. Yeah, it's looking better now, though. I've been listening to sticks here in the background. I'm going to rewind and play this straight through for now. I'll be cutting my audio, and then if I have anything to say in there, I'll jump in.
All right, everyone, it's time to address this now viral trending change to the YouTube sort of partnership programs that people are all talking about. First and foremost, this is only going to affect a tiny proportion of the people on this actual platform. I hope people realize that. Secondly, it has nothing to do with Logan Paul. Actually, it was announced several months ago that this was going to happen. And nobody really talked about it at the time. I had one person DM me worried that this was going to impact me, and of course I looked at analytics. I'll open it now, and actually the amount of content, the amount of actual watch time, I'll go through here and just look at a single day. On the 15th, 2 years and 293 days of my content was watched. So I'm well above the threshold on both ends, so as far as I go, you don't have to worry. Mostly people will not be impacted by this change. What this means is you have to have 4,000 hours of watch time in the last year and 1,000 subscribers to apply for YouTube partnership and or use AdSense. I'm going to say this first and foremost, and I'm not blaming anyone for this or taking the side of the jackboots or anything. If you have under 1,000 subscribers and that little watch time, there is very little chance you've ever even gotten an AdSense payout. If you're really close to that, like maybe you have fewer subscribers but you had a viral video and you made a couple hundred on AdSense, the chances of you replicating that on a regular basis are pretty low, and if you do, you're going to get over the subscriber threshold. If you've got a lot more subscribers but less watch time, it's a function of making a few extra videos, and it probably gets you to that threshold. Ultimately, people that are near to this level don't have to worry much. People that are over the level don't worry much. People who don't monetize, like myself, won't have to worry. Large creators, anyone, a few thousand subscribers, if they're making content even weekly at that point, they'd be well over that threshold. They're not worried. The only class of people really that should be impacted by this are people that are significantly under that level. But a lot of people, you got to realize, most people with accounts that are significantly smaller than that aren't really making content regularly anyway, if they've made any at all. Most of the accounts...
I was saying there a second ago, you probably saw my lips moving. I'm really interested in this and have thumbed it up already because I am not in the AdSense camp. I'm against monetization, so it doesn't affect me.
On YouTube that are active don't have any videos uploaded. Most of them, people have them just to comment and like and share and build playlists and do social stuff. Then I would say maybe 10% of the active accounts in the platform make content. And at most, maybe 1% of those accounts making content at all are anywhere near that threshold. The average account that has any subscribers at all, I think someone did a rough estimate and it was under 100 subscribers. If you're at that level, you're never going to get an AdSense payout, chances are. So I do feel sorry for anyone adversely impacted by this. And the big problem that YouTube's going to have is the way that they worded actually the notification that was served out to people that were YouTube partners had monetization, and now they're getting a notification that's going to be terminated. I'm going to read it here. Redact the username, of course. Under the new eligibility requirements announced today, your YouTube channel, insert name here, is no longer eligible for monetization because it doesn't meet the new threshold of 4,000 hours of watch time within the past 12 months and 1,000 subscribers. Again, most people have significantly less than that. As a result, your channel will lose access to all monetization tools and features associated with the YouTube Partner Program on February 20th, 2018, unless you surpass this threshold in the next 30 days. Accordingly, this email serves as 30 days notice that your YouTube Partner Program terms are terminated. That last part should have been left off. I gotta say, YouTube, what are you doing, dude? Listen to how you sound. Why don't you read it aloud to one another first before you send out such a notification? You're pissing people off and giving leverage to people who already have an axe to grind with YouTube for this. My suggestion for people near this threshold, or who want to have some level of income, even if it's like, $5 a month, but you're nowhere near the threshold, use Maker Support or Patreon or something. Just do a little crowdfunding. You might find a few people are willing to donate small sums to, and you can get it paid out under, $100 threshold, I believe. So that shouldn't be a problem, number one. Number two, you could think about merchandise, or you could just double down on your efforts on YouTube. Look, if someone's expecting to get rich by making one video a week without any tags and an improperly formatted title, you're fooling yourself. Ultimately, you have to have some degree of talent to rise up through YouTube. It is kind of a meritocratic system. Sometimes, because corporations will sponsor and then, advertise channels that aren't really talented. I think we could all think of a few of those individuals. But the first misconception is that this has something to do with Logan Paul. It was announced several months before that. The second misconception is that this is somehow going to affect a lot of popular users or a vast number of users. It's not going to affect either. Anyone who's got a large audience is not affected by this. Anyone who's got a few viral videos once in a while probably won't be affected. So those people are basically exempt to this change. I do feel sorry, however, for the new crop of users that are now entering YouTube, who will find it harder if they are trying to make their way. But the third misconception is this has nothing whatsoever to do with your uploading capabilities, algorithms, search, or any of the playlists, the visibility of your channel. It only has to do with monetization for the most part. There aren't a lot of partner features. I couldn't even tell you any of the other partner features off the top of my head because I don't really care. As someone who doesn't take AdSense, doesn't care about AdSense, who uses crowdfunding and sells books and shit, I couldn't even tell you. I don't know. If they make a change to the partner program, it's like it's Greek to me unless other people talk about it, for the most part. For most people, this isn't going to change things. But YouTube should have worded this differently, and they should come out and perhaps put out a second release to these people and say, oh, we realize the way we worded that last sentence might not have been the greatest. We're not trying to indicate, oh, you're in trouble or anything. And by the way, you can still upload as much as you want. There's no restriction on that. You can, make comments, you can do playlists, you can coordinate with people. Also, another suggestion, here's a big one. And this helped me get where I am now. I couldn't even fathom how much smaller my presence would be if I didn't do this. Originally, up until a couple of years ago, I was just a YouTube. Until around the time of the election when my channel started growing anyway. And then I decided, hey, I should probably have a presence on other platforms in order to connect with people, but also to notify them, because notifications have been getting sketchier and sketchier as to whether they serve. And it doesn't seem to be targeted. That was another misconception. It seems to be some sort of weird rotational basis on which channels' notifications go out to people reliably. It's weird because one week I'll get notifications properly for someone and then the next week I won't, and then someone else that I wasn't getting them from, I'll get them from. It's fucking weird, to tell the truth at this point. So I don't trust YouTube alone to notify people of my content. Get a Twitter handle, use Gab. Gab is the faster, better, less censored version of Twitter at this point. You could do a Facebook group. A Facebook's dyingminds.com honestly is better. Again, faster growing and not censored. You could consider uploading as well to BitChute or PewTube, and there are other alternatives. You could use a legacy network like what's it called, Vimeo or Veo or any of these others. There used to be VidMe. That one was great until it died off. So there are all sorts of sites now that are catering to people who don't want to be just YouTubers. I would have been perfectly content to just be a YouTuber if I didn't think there wasn't a strong suspicion in my mind that a lot of people weren't getting my notifications regularly, and therefore it was holding back my growth on the platform. But also, in closing, I'm going to theorize as to why YouTube is doing this. In the wake of so many advertisers cutting down on ads, internet-wide, it's not just YouTube, and people virtue signaling and saying, we're not going to give YouTube ads anymore because there's extremists on YouTube, which is bullshit, but that's the excuse that they use. And it is an excuse, trust me, they wanted an extra shot to in the arm for their brand image while they were going to cut out ads anyway. Ad-based internet's dying. YouTube has fewer sites that are actually serving ads on YouTube, but it has more and more views on YouTube. That's a little bit of a problem because those ads are being stretched mighty thin. Somebody turns on AdSense, and they're no longer having ads reliably served through AdSense because there aren't enough advertisers to serve all of the ads needed for all of the traffic.
Fucking Mel Gibson's on tonight.
YouTube, therefore, I think,
on Joe Rogan,
is mainly trying to cut out the lowest rung of people taking AdSense in order to buff up the reliability of the service for larger creators who then...
We got Trump's friggin' fake news awards are on tonight, and that.
They hope will get off their back on the issue of Adpocalypse 2.0. People like PewDiePie, people like Eugenia Cooney or JonTron, people with, million subscribers or more. That's the class, ultimately, that YouTube cares the most about. Then it has people on sort of my rung, 100,000 plus. It cares about us, too, to some degree. Under that, though, ultimately, I think it considers a lot of people expendable. Now, I'm not saying that, and I consider that bad for the platform, because I remember YouTube being fully democratized years ago. Ultimately, though, YouTube is a corporation. They care most about money, and image, ties into that. That's what they care about. So when they see a bunch of corporations withdrawing ads and virtue signaling, they're going to try to make it, they're going to virtue signal too, while also the real motive is financial. Trust me when I say this was a financial motive that drove them to do this. They weren't going to make such a change. They had to have known that this would be unpopular with some YouTubers. They aren't going to make such a change that doesn't give them any benefit as far as relations with its own platform, unless there's a profit motive. That profit motive, in my mind, can only be the fact, and YouTube owned up to this. Oh, well, there aren't enough advertisers to serve ads every time somebody watches a video on somebody's monetized channel. There are more views than there are actual slots to be filled with ads. So we're only serving every other view or every 10th view or something. So they're hoping to increase the reliability, at least short term, in order to appease the larger creators, stave off the inevitable, which is AdSense dying as a concept. The ad-driven internet is dying. I've already said this, I've been saying this for a while, and you see it happening.
Here, Sticks.
Advertisers are abandoning Facebook and YouTube, some of the largest platforms, where you would think the highest reliability would be, biggest audiences, most in tune, most interconnected. They're not serving ads to them anymore. What do you think about smaller sites? Hell, no one's going to serve it. I did an ad campaign once on 4chan. There was no return. It got me more...
Hey, Hilljack. I've been watching some of them too. He seems to be working up on his whole plan for 2018. He seems to be working it out in front of us.
Visibility. I got a few reviews. That's great, but it was a short-term ad campaign deliberately...
Tonight, Thursday, and Thursday night. St. John's, Avalon Peninsula North, for tonight, cloudy, with 40% chance of flurries. Winds west, 20 kilometers per hour, becoming southeast, 20, near midnight. Low, -5. For Thursday, cloudy. A few flurries, beginning in the morning, then changing to periods of rain or drizzle near noon. Risk of freezing drizzle in the morning. Rainfall amounts, 2 millimeters. Fog patches, developing in the afternoon. Winds southeast, 30 kilometers per hour, gusting to 60, becoming southwest, 30, gusting to 50 in the afternoon. High +4. For Thursday night, periods of rain or drizzle ending in the evening, then partly cloudy. Fog patches dissipating in the evening. Wind southwest, 30 kilometers per hour, gusting to 50, becoming northwest, 20, gusting to 40 in the evening. Low -4. Avalon Peninsula southeast,
Avalon Peninsula southwest. For tonight, cloudy with 40% chance of flurries. Wind southwest, 20 kilometers per hour, gusting to 40, becoming light this evening. Winds becoming southeast, 20 overnight. Low -2.
When I
For
say
Thursday, cloudy.
when I say working out
Periods
to
of
HA
rain or
is kind of
drizzle
like
beginning in the
he's
morning.
obviously paying
Rainfall
real
amounts
close attention
2 to
to
4
all of his
millimeters.
statistics.
Fog patches
So he talks
developing
about it
near noon.
as he's doing
Wind
his
southeast,
segment.
30
Hey, here's for
kilometers
the
per
9-minute
hour,
crowd. Here's,
gusting to
15
60,
seconds.
becoming southwest 30, gusting to 50 in the afternoon. High +4. For Thursday night, periods of rain or drizzle ending in the evening, then partly cloudy. Fog patches dissipating in the evening. Wind southwest 30 kilometers per hour, gusting to 50, becoming northwest 20, gusting to 40 near midnight. Low -2. Extended forecasts from Friday, January 19th to Tuesday, January 23rd for Newfoundland, issued at 4 p.m. Wednesday, January 17th. St. John's, Bonavista Vista Peninsula, for Friday, cloudy with 40% chance of flurries. High -4. For Friday night, cloudy periods. Windy, low -9. For Saturday, cloudy. High -3. For Saturday night, flurries. Low -3. For Sunday, a mix of sun and cloud. High -1. For Sunday night, cloudy with 40% chance of flurries. Low -7. For Monday, cloudy with 40% chance of flurries. High -5. For Monday night, cloudy. Low -7. For Tuesday, cloudy with 60% chance of flurries. High -1. Normals for the period, low -8, high 0. Burin Peninsula, southern Avalon, for Friday, cloudy. High -3. For Friday night, cloudy periods. Low -7. For Saturday, cloudy. High -2. For Saturday night, flurries. Low -2. For Sunday, a mix of sun and cloud. High 0. For Sunday night, cloudy periods. Low -5. For Monday, a mix of sun and cloud. High -4. For Monday night, cloudy periods. Low -6. For Tuesday, cloudy with 60% chance of flurries. High +1.
The latest one that
Normals
HA
for the
put out was
period,
pretty good too,
low
actually. The one he's
-8,
talking about.
high
Spent
-1.
a lot of time talking about
Weather
Rudy
conditions
Giuliani
at 7 p.m. St.
as
John's,
an indicator.
temperature -3, wind west-southwest 10 kilometers per hour, wind chill -7, relative humidity 88%, barometric pressure 102.9 kilopascals and rising.
88%.
St. John's, west, temperature -3, wind southwest 6 kilometers per hour, wind chill -5, relative humidity 87%, barometric pressure 102.8 kilopascals
See
and
interference
falling.
around the
Cape
stove.
Race, temperature -3,
Coming in from
wind
nearby on the
northwest
spectrum.
7 kilometers per hour, wind chill -6, relative humidity 97%, barometric pressure 102.9 kilopascals and falling. Argentia not available. Marine forecasts for Newfoundland issued at 8 p.m. Wednesday, January 17th for tonight and Thursday. East coast, winds west 10 to 15 knots, becoming light late this evening, then increasing to southeast 15 to 20 late overnight, except southeast 25 over northern sections Thursday. Winds becoming southwest 25 Thursday evening. A few flurries beginning late overnight, changing to showers and fog banks near noon Thursday. Temperatures
Northwest Texas is
-4
doing
to
that, huh?
0, rising to +4 Thursday afternoon. Northern Grand Banks, winds west 10 to 15 knots, becoming
How much power
light
they're
this
throwing
evening,
into their
then
transmitter.
increasing to southeast 15 to 20 late overnight. Winds increasing to southeast 25 Thursday morning, then veering to southwest 20 Thursday afternoon. Rain and fog banks beginning Thursday morning. Temperatures
So
-1,
much of this
rising
scope
to
is the Northwest
+5
Taxi
Thursday
static.
afternoon.
When it keys, it all goes
Extended
away and it
marine
all goes into the
forecast
signal.
for Newfoundland issued at 3:30 p.m. Wednesday, January 17th for Friday,
Another one here,
Saturday, and Sunday. East Coast for Friday, winds northwest 25 knots. For Saturday, winds northwest 20 knots, increasing to southwest 25 to 35. For Sunday, winds west 25 knots. Northern Grand Banks for Friday, winds west 20 knots, veering to north 25 in the afternoon. For Saturday,
Channel
winds
dispatcher.
northwest 25 knots, backing to southwest 25. For Sunday, winds west 25 to 35 knots. Wave height forecasts for Newfoundland issued at 6 p.m. Wednesday, January 17th for tonight and Thursday. East Coast seas 2 meters. Northern Grand Banks seas 2 to 3 meters. Weather conditions at 7 p.m. St. John's, temperature -3, wind west-southwest 6 knots, wind chill -7,
knots, pretty
relative
good.
humidity 88%, barometric
6 knots,
pressure
about 10 kilometers an hour.
102.9 kilopascals and rising. St. John's, west, temperature -3, wind southwest 3 knots, wind chill -5, relative humidity 87%, barometric pressure 102.8 kilopascals and falling.
Falling.
Cape Race, temperature -3, wind northwest 4 knots, wind chill -6, relative humidity 97%, barometric pressure 102.9 kilopascals and falling. Argentia not available.
Prévision pour Terre-Neuve.
Wonderful. I'm going to go back down to the down to these. I'm also going to change this back to a smaller scan range because I don't need to see so much. We'll go with 1200. One full megahertz is enough. I'll stick it on that one. I'm going to leave it in the background just playing. If anything picks up in the region, well, then it'll automatically snap to it. Hey, Hilljack, did you see Danica on Rogan yesterday? And what did you think of her? Like, I'm sure, I'm not too terribly aware of who's who in the racing world, so I was curious to listen to her and find out how she fit into the ecosystem she was in. But there were times when I guess I've been thinking about weird things lately, and there were times when she was saying things I was thinking, wow, I wouldn't have thought it would have been that blatantly obvious. But it was a very interesting interview yesterday on Rogan. I shall be right back.
design just to bring attention to my work. You know, it's not something that I would continue doing because there's never going to actually be a return on the investment. The only reason a corporation or a brand at this point buys ads at all, for the most part, is if it wants a short-term campaign to bring awareness to a product or a service, after which it ends the campaign because it's not going to make money on the campaign itself. It's making money by then generating grassroots word of mouth about the product. They want to generate a grassroots appeal through their first ad campaign, then they don't need an ad campaign, now do they? They don't want to buy ads on YouTube. They want to establish a YouTube channel and take it directly to people for free. They don't want to advertise on Facebook. They start a Facebook group, a Facebook fan page. They don't want to advertise on Twitter. They have a Twitter handle. And then they shitpost and they do funny things because that's how humans have begun to work online. It's going to continue. You're going to see the collapse of a lot of websites as the result of reliance upon advertising. Google knows this. They're not stupid. They know this. That's why they're doing such things. AdSense probably won't even exist in a few years. So keep that one close to your chest. It's a good thing to keep in mind, and I've warned people. And some people have paid me no heed. I also warned them about the impending adpocalypse, that Adpocalypse 1 wasn't the end of it, that there would be such things as limited state, that the legacy media was going to go after independent content creators, that these sites were going to get infiltrated by zealots, and all of these things have happened. So that's my advice to you. Wean yourself off ads. If you're not already monetized, don't bother seeking monetization unless you are extremely family friendly. Otherwise, don't bother. Take crowdfunding, sell merchandise, do something more tangible. That would be my advice. But for the most part, in conclusion here, this will not affect 99.99% of people on the platform. Those that are, I feel sorry for you. If any of my subscribers have gotten this notification, you can show this to me. I'll try to help you out if I can. Now, it might be a tidal wave of people, so if that happens, I can't promise anything, but I'll try to do what I can to get you over, like, at least the subscriber threshold. I'll tweet out your YouTube channels in bundles or something and say, hey, you know, you can subscribe to these people. You know, they subscribe to me. I'm going to do them a solid since they're doing me a solid. That's about all. Peace out.
So YouTube, anyone else who's listening, I'm here planning to be around all evening. Various things are going to be happening one way or the other. Either events on YouTube or events in the real tube, so to speak. Our Bastards just gone live. I think you're going to rebroadcast a bit of that tonight, which is what I'm looking for here now. Tedros Fikra.
And they go into the media realm, and then they become consultants. And all of it is like a bunch. The left hand keeps washing the right hand, and we people that are elevated to filter between these two or three or four different paradigms, we come to accept them as authority. So not because of virtue, but just by virtue of becoming famous. So, you know, we had to realize this, they're not doing this. Anything that they're doing this
Virtue
for their
is
own
virtue
interest.
does.
And the reason I walked away from Obama about it is because, as you know, in 2008, when the economy crashed, he had a chance, had he wanted to punish the banksters and to help the consumers that were being defrauded by Wall Street, that were being
the
defrauded
deal here is I'm watching
by these
for
banking mafia. And
watching for events to occur in the real world as well
tens of trillions of dollars
here.
to the same criminals that bled the economy, and then homeowners. He basically gave rhetoric, just nothing but rhetoric. And so the same reason why we glom onto these personalities is the same reason why corporate media has such a stranglehold on the public airways, because we've just gotten accustomed to just accepting what authority tells us, and people that question authority are dismissed, either as wackos or as conspiracy theorists. I mean, sure, there might be some that are, but I tell you what, though, I'd rather take my chances with someone that might be lying, you know, might not be telling the whole truth, whatever it is, compared to somebody that's absolutely telling a lie. Corporate media is telling you a lie, you know. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think, the issue of like the cognitive dissonance and the ability to admit when you're wrong, I think that's a key issue, because a lot of these things, like if you want to talk about Hillary Clinton or you can talk about Obama, a lot of these things are such huge issues that they would disqualify anyone to be supported or followed. But there's still plenty of people that support Hillary Clinton. There's plenty of people that support Obama, and there's still plenty of people that watch corporate media and believe it. You mentioned in the article that you have a vision that as a society we could move beyond corporate media and embrace independent media, and I largely agree with that. Do you envision, like, I mean, this is probably going to be a slow process, but what do you ultimately envision happening?
So it's, you know, we had to enter in. Actually, Lee Camp interviewed me about the same topic about 4 months ago. So one of the things that he raised was, you know, in order for independent media to thrive or to succeed, to be honest with you, we're not even in the realm of discussing thriving. We're just to exist. When, you know, all the levers of power are being stacked up to basically to censor independent journalism, whether it's because of net neutrality, because of what even before net neutrality, what Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube are doing to you know, using algorithms to diminish voices like us who are not part of the you know, these things are making it harder and harder for us to exist. And a few people, it's already like, I think 90% of all information that we consume is already monopolized by 6 companies. And now we're getting to closer to 100%. This is a clear and present threat to democracy as we know it, to our freedoms, because if you don't have independent media, you know, one of the things, by the way, I talked about in an article, in a recent article that I wrote, is how the Pentagon Papers, that was effectively one person deciding to become an independent journalist, you know, because the media back then, as always, was, you know, passing on the lies of the Gulf of Tonkin, was not covering the lies of the bombings in Cambodia. And so it was, his name escapes my mind for some reason, but it wasn't someone that actually worked at the Pentagon that decided to publish the Pentagon Papers. So he decided to become an independent journalist. As you know, now fast forward to what's going on with Julian Assange. He's also a voice that says no to the lies of the war racket, and look how they're treating him. And so, voices of independent voices become, you know, if they extinguish independent voices, then you're talking about endless wars, and eventually another recession is going to happen, and the next one is going to be really. You thought 2008 was bad. So this is in the
having a discussion here
like
in Hard Bastards channel about David Icke, Lizard's Vita TV series, and why it was that he got ejected by the media.
Tyranny at its highest form. So what I like to think to go circle back to what you asked me is, we had to enter into a paradigm of collaboration as opposed to competing. I know there's a lot of personalities within the independent media realm, and I'm pretty sure, like anything else, there's bad blood between some folks, and there's bickering that might happen, and egos might come at play. But I hope that we just keep in mind that the ideal is more important than the person. So somehow, if we're able to magnify each other's voices, then we all, are able to succeed in that way. Or if we compete with each other, people like entities like the Washington Post and New York Times can compete because they have the resources. We can only survive in this paradigm by collaborating with each other. So as you're proving, and I've been lucky with a lot of other folks that have actually, that tweet my articles out and that invite me to the interviews. H.A. Goodman interviewed me as well. So I've been quite lucky, and I'm hoping eventually not only for the Guion Journal to succeed, but for all of us to succeed as one of us. Let's follow suit.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think it's important that we collaborate and kind of like build each other up. I'm definitely on board with that. It's one of the things I like about your writing. You have a very like big picture approach, and like specifically because a lot of this stuff goes even deeper than the corporate media. In the article, you wrote the article, the MLK article. They kill prophets, turn them into myths, and whitewash their legacy. And in the article, you're pointing out that it's almost like a cooperation between. It's an alliance between. I think you wrote an alliance between mainstream media, the political class, and the institutions of higher learning. And they present altered narratives or whatever narrative best suits them, which is not the truth. So it's really multifaceted. That you not only have the media in bed with the politicians, but also what a lot that's being taught in the colleges is also basically the same kind of corporate bullshit. Basically,
right. I think a paycheck makes a slave of many men, and women, and everyone. To be honest with you, so. By the way, let me preface this by saying it's easy for me right now to say what I'm saying and to do what I'm doing because relatively speaking, I don't really make a secret of this. My life crumbled apart not too long ago, and so I'm building myself back up, and so sure. Would I have the same courage? I would like to think that I would if I was getting $1 million a year, like some of these journalists are. To be able to walk away from that, so by the way, this is the connective point. While there's, between media, between politics, between these various institutions of higher learning, pretty much anyone that's an opinion leader, they're getting paid, and people are very averse to telling the truth when they're getting paid by a system that is perpetuating lies. So that's why independent journalists are so vital because. Professors, I've talked to some professors, and there's certain things I talked to them about from historical things, and they would tell me, "You're right," and I'm like, "Well, but that's not what you said in class." He's like, "Well, look, I'm not trying to get in trouble over this." Right. There's a lot of things that are being really, even the story of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. He's presented. In this day, whitewashed version of him, of who he was. They don't talk about the quote unquote radicalized king. And to be radical, to espouse equality for all is, I don't know how that's radical. To be against the Vietnam War, which was taking the lives of almost 1 million Vietnamese people and 55,000 American soldiers. To be against that's radical. The radicalism is perpetuating a war of choice. A war of choice that was always meant to further inflate the profits of the what do you call it, the military financial complex. That had nothing to do with, most wars have nothing to do with justice and freedom. It has everything to do with profits and revenue. So they don't talk about that. They don't talk about the Martin Luther King that was literally trying to get the Poor People's Campaign that was supposed to be about inclusive justice, that was supposed to be beyond black and white. It was supposed to be about bringing the suffering masses together, which the status quo government, actually, let's stop calling it the status quo. It's the government. The FBI was harassing. Right. And by the way, this is not conspiracy theory. This is a matter of public record.
No, not at all.
You know,
the
FBI was threatening him in ways that was. I mean, there was the fact that, by the way, that we are now lionizing the same man that this government was targeting for systematic, systematic intimidation, and to the point where they drove him into depression and anxiety attacks. Now the same government is going back and giving him a holiday. That's the I can never say this word. Chutzpah.
Chutzpah.
That's the essence of it, and that's what I talked about in the article. By the way, is how first they eradicate I call them a prophet. Since biblical times, prophets are always assassinated. And then what happens is they take their story, they whitewash it, and then they invert it, and then they turn them into these mythical legends in order to convince us that we can't be like that. We so focus on the message, the messenger, that we lose the message. And this, whether this is from a biblical perspective, even the story of how Jesus is being presented today.
Sure.
This is a lily version of who he was. He was against money in churches. How many pastors talk about that? But because that's their, that would be like condemning themselves. And so, the same reason why he was crucified, if you want to look at it from a spiritual perspective, or is the same reason why every other person that speaks about peace and coexistence, because the system that we have depends on division and violence and war. So the threat to that are not people that speak up with hatred in their hearts or with malice in their hearts. It's people that speak up with love in their heart. And so that's why they keep going after them. So that's what I wrote about. And so I think part of, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to continue on for us.
Sure.
We live in an age of information, and so it doesn't take that much to keep researching. Don't just stop at the first page of Google. Books are still important. Talk to people that actually know. For me, not only do I read copious books, but I talk to a lot of elders, people that grew up in that era as well, because they know the truth, and informing your decisions that way instead of just being told.
Yeah, you brought up there was almost like a pattern with you refer to them as prophets, but leaders, whereas it was like a pattern that once, whether you bring up John F. Kennedy, you bring up Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and that once they reached a point where they were talking about universal justice and like an all-inclusive justice, they end up getting killed, and then when that happens, it really depends, but it's like depending on whether it's a politician or the corporate media, and depending on who they're talking about, they always use an aspect of their life that supports their narrative. I think you had brought up that the later stages of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X is when they were more talking about the inclusive universal justice, whereas certain people might bring up other aspects to support their own political narrative, and so that's interesting. The another quote that I liked was this: in the age of social justice and unending protests, the demagogues who pretend to speak for us never talk about economic injustice and pushes an us versus them rhetoric. And it just seems like this is getting worse and worse, and it's one of the reasons I like your writing, is because you identify this, and I think we need more people that are able to not only identify it, but kind of just like speak out against it and advocate for more of like a unified force against the establishment.
You know, part of the reason, by the way, that I'm not, I was part of that crowd too. Now, I unwittingly, of course, I was not getting paid by quote unquote the status quo to do this, but you know, in 2008, 2009, I was that person talking about, you know, white people are this and talking about white privilege, and you know, I was being divisive too, because, and it was not until I went through what I went through, and in fact, for me, the seminal moment, when everything kind of, you know, my eyes opened up to how humanity is bigger than our differences. I was staying in a mission in South Carolina, and my life like literally unraveled before my eyes. And I found myself in a mission in South Carolina. And one day I woke up and there was a little girl that was staying at the mission. She was a I'm come to detest these labels of black and white now, because I realize they're just artificial constructs that have nothing to do with who we are as human beings. But I saw I always use quote marks now, right? Because in America, you can't describe anybody without using color first.
That's true, yeah.
But I saw this little quote unquote white girl, and she was like 7 years old, and it broke my heart to see somebody, before she even knows what the world is really about, to be growing up in that environment. And so from that moment on, I could never sit up here and look at justice through the prism of just identity or ideology, because in that same mission, there was white folks, there were you know, black folks, there were Latinos, there was a couple of Muslims. It was a sea of humanity made equal by poverty. And so that, you know, when it comes to injustice, you know, even though some might have it worse than others, but, you know, your pain is your pain, and my pain is my pain. I can't look up here and say, my broken leg, but he's in a wheelchair. My leg hurts regardless. So you can't diminish what other people go through. So that's when I realized that it's not cool to sit up here and present or try to monopolize injustice. It's better to say that I struggle, you struggle, let's see what we can do to overcome together, as opposed to saying I struggle, you don't struggle, you're privileged, and I'm the one that's hurt. It's counterproductive, and this is what the system wants us to do. They want us to fight each other. It's like the Roman Empire, where gladiators fight amongst each other, and the plutocrats, senators, and the gentry sit up in the Colosseums and they just watch and laugh as we bludgeon each other. It's not, you know, we had to stop doing that, and we're better off uniting than we are trying to bash each other's skull in, because we're doing the work of the system for them when we do this.
Yeah, I completely agree, and because I speak out a lot against because I was more, and this is the other thing when we get into like labels, and I'm really trying not to use labels because I'm against labels when it comes to like referring to people as like right wing, left wing, but it's very difficult because it's an easy way to like explain like a group of people that you're talking about, but ultimately that it's conditioning from the establishment. But I remember when I guess was more leftist or more of a social justice warrior, what kind of woke me up is seeing, like, I have no issue with people who want to advocate for any sort of cause for their own group, but then I started to see the politicians kind of use like the social justice to it was like a simultaneous commodifying of the social justice movement, and then the politicians got in, and really, like, once the Clinton campaign launched, she just went full-blown into it, and that's what I started to speak out against, because what I saw was like an exploitation of marginalized groups and exploitation for the purposes of, like, in that case, the Clinton campaign, and because when it comes to non-corporate advocacy, I have no issue if people want to advocate for whatever they want, but it's I just started to get really bothered when I would see like people raise money like on behalf of like some of the mothers of the police shootings, and then they would never get the money, and I was like, this is just completely out of control. What's happening? I have another, if you don't mind. This is a really good, it's like a couple paragraphs. It's absolutely fantastic, though. It wasn't in the MLK article. It was in the article that you wrote about Hillary Clinton. It really wasn't. She was included in it, but the title was "She is not with you. Tokenism and empty symbolism does not represent us." I just want to read this part. It's 2 paragraphs, but this is fantastic. You wrote, "We're in dark times. Our society is being pushed to the brink as the very tokens who were once used to symbolize hope are now using their status and influence to agitate us into strife and conflict. The tokenism I write about has always been about splintering our nation and the planet as a whole into encampments. Now symbolism and demagoguery are being used to antagonize us into hostilities. Identity politics was never meant to advance our interests. It was always meant to ghettoize and to make us see each other as enemies. This is the natural evolution of tribalism. As you divide the masses, you can conquer them by having them fight among each other. We are now in the 3rd phase of tribalism. Instead of identity politics, the establishment is pushing the very demagogues who pretend to be speaking for us to get us spun up into derangement. I'm warning you, irrespective of your skin complexion or your political affiliation, be careful about letting rich and powerful people in media and politics push you into the cul-de-sac of grievance and hatred. Revolutions seem cool until your children's bodies are the ones stacking up into the streets." That is absolutely, that's fantastic. I really, I mean, I have nothing really to add to that. That's just like, you break this down absolutely perfectly. And you know, I am kind of worried about where we're headed. And what do you think we can do to just, I guess, offer some sort of counterbalance to like the divisive rhetoric we see?
You know, it's a hard question.
Yeah, it's a huge, yeah, absolutely, it's a huge question.
You have to laugh at these things sometimes, because it's just to gaze into. I was talking to Tim. Can't be gazing into the navel of politics too long, or else it will depress the shit out of you. So,
sure, absolutely.
But you know, I think these things that have taken centuries, countless centuries to arrive at. You know, I talked to my sister a while back ago. So I asked her about, like, this might seem off topic, but it's not. I'm going to bring it back to the point I'm trying to make. But I asked her, like, you know, when she had a baby, I said, out of curiosity, how long does it take to heal? Because this seems like it's horrific. And she's like, oh, it takes about 9 months. I was like, what? So I said, it takes that long so it takes just as long to deliver a baby, the whole process of birthing a baby, to heal from that. She's like, yeah. And it kind of made me realize that, in a way, this centuries of oppression, of the centuries of spreading the masses, the centuries of a few lording over the masses, this, if it's taken 800 years or longer, you know, who knows when this started, then it's going to take that long to heal from it. And we have not even gotten to the point where the birthing has taken place. We're still going through the process of the water breaking, you know, because this baby that's born, it feels like it won't necessarily stop until, and I hope this is not the case, until the shit literally hits the fan. And I think that's when we're going to have a collective awakening and realize that exactly how we're being hoodwinked as a people. But so, and then when that aha moment happens, hopefully in my lifetime, then it's going to take another 800 years or whatever by the time it has taken us to get to this point for us to heal from that. But the first step to mending is to stop, for each one of us, to stop feeding into the divisive nature of our politics and the divisive nature of our society. You know, it's getting easier and easier, especially as technology evolves, for us to just be very mean-spirited to each other. And it wasn't like this when I was a kid. At least I hope it was. I don't remember it being this, where people are so antagonistic with each other, you know? Yeah. And so part of it is we're being conditioned by social media when it's very easy to bang at somebody that's an abstraction, that's an icon. But then that pattern follows us into the real life situation. And so somebody cuts you off, you know, you it's not necessary, but we do it. You crush up a storm, and you would think that like that person slapped your mom, but it's like he just cut you off by accident on a highway. You're ready to throw a ballistic missile at it, So it's not healthy, anger and antipathy on this level. Let me just actually tell a quick story of what happened to me the other day, right?
Sure. Yeah.
There was somebody at my job. I'm not going to mention names. Made it.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it was the same thing. It was this whole like this need for some people to shine at the expense of other people, and this to marginalize. And so I was witnessing that. And for a while, I was like, I'm not going to say anything. So I had enough. And so I let him have a piece of my mind as well, right? So then from that moment on, for the next couple of days, I was like, I'm not even going to talk to this dude. So for me, I was carrying that weight until I finally, like yesterday, I went to him. I said, hey, your bygones are bygones. And then he kind of shocked, and I gave him that. And it felt immediately at that moment, it felt so much more freeing. Like my pride would not let me do that at first. I was like, fuck him, I'm not gonna say shit. But then,
right.
So I think in a way we've been deceived into thinking that it's better to always stick up for ourselves and to get the last word. But these things are like a dog chasing its tail. It never gets better. It just makes us more and more angry. So I know it sounds kumbaya-ish almost, but if we really want to stand up for justice in this world, we had to do it through love, because fighting fire with fire just ensures two people that are burn victims, and we don't need any more fire in this world.
Yeah, you went into this in the interview with H.A. Goodman, where and I think this is one of the things the establishment wants to avoid, whereas like they don't want people to talk to each other. I mean, there was an example. There was a guy. His name was Hawk Newsom, and he was a Black Lives Matter activist.
Right.
And he went to a Trump rally, and he got on stage.
Saw that.
And I don't know if you saw the clip, but somehow he basically was able to deliver a message that kind of united parts of the crowd just from like the standpoint of their own humanity. And at the end of the speech, he was taking pictures with some of the Trump supporters, and they actually made some progress. It was amazing. And then he basically gets pulled in after that and had to like explain himself, and it was just incredible. Like it was almost like it was wrong of him to have done that, and I do think the establishment wants us to not talk to each other, because I think the point you made in the H.A. Goodman interview is like when you sit down with people, especially if you sit down and you have food and you're just like chilling, that like you have no choice but to look at that person as a human being, and that's kind of where you can start to at least work out your differences, and because ultimately we need to live together. We don't necessarily need to agree with each other, and we've become so polarized that now it's this idea that like everyone must agree, and if people don't agree, they need to be outcasted, and they need to have certain rights taken away, or they need to have access to certain applications taken away. So I definitely I completely agree with the idea of coming together and just talking and trying to find common ground with anyone, because it's really we either kill each other or we try to live together. I don't really think there's another option.
Well, the thing is, though, it was so sad. Like I said, I'm not trying to be pious here, because I used to do the same thing. You know, in 2009, for example, I think it was 2009, or it might have been a little bit past that, when the Bundy folks in I think it was Idaho, the ranchers, when they were getting pissed off about their land being trampled on. You know, I looked at it was, of course, it was wall-to-wall coverage on Fox News. I used to look at it like, I used to dismiss. I was like, bullshit. I don't even want to listen to him. But then when MSNBC shows coverage of folks like, for example, black quote unquote black folks in Chicago getting trampled upon, it used to piss me off. So injustice became like a political football. If it was happening to the other side, it was something to be laughed at. It was happening to my side. But the thing is, though, folks in Chicago and insert any other city, minorities, I don't even know why we call it minorities, but folks
Right.
who are on one side, whether it's minorities, people of color, these labels that are just useless to me. Because I say, by the way, people of color, like who's people of color, who's color and who's not. These things that are just so asinine. But um, I say all that, but people in Chicago or people in Atlanta or in Harlem have more in common with the folks in Tennessee and the Appalachians and in West Virginia and Idaho and Wichita. But we've been so conditioned to see each other as enemies. But at the root, it's that Martin Luther King got assassinated because he was trying to bridge the divide between the struggling white masses and the struggling black masses, and that's when that exact decision was his death sentence, because that had the potential of becoming a catalyst for real change. The system that we live in only thrives because of the historical wound of America, the original sin, which is we call the original sin of slavery, has been used as a political football to splinter poor whites from poor blacks, and then they have us fighting each other. This has always been the case. The thing is, though, we have more in common with each other. By the way, poor is very relative. Even somebody making $100,000 a year.
Sure.
See what happens when 2 or 3 paychecks go away. I speak from personal experiences. I was making 6 figures at Booz Allen Hamilton. When my contract came to an end, and then all of a sudden there was no more paychecks coming in, and I make a few bad business decisions, and all of a sudden I find myself on the street. The struggling masses are not just people that are on welfare. It's people that are making 6 figures too are only a few paychecks away. So we're better off uniting with each other, divided on race, on class, on on ethnicity, on religion, on ideology. One of these days, this is going to lead to a severe wake-up call. And like I said, I want to be a fearmonger over here, but another downturn is coming.
Oh, I agree with you. I completely agree here. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I think we're definitely possibly headed for that.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest with you, I think that's exactly why they have it so agitated at all times, and why Trump was elected too. Because as long as you're pissed off at all times, we're not seeing the train that's coming around the corner. When that train comes, watch out. But you live for the day. What can you do?
Yeah, and I think we all do have things in common, but the major thing, and this is why one of the reasons why I think that the establishment wants us apart, is that economic inequality, getting robbed basically by the 1%, and the way things currently are, that affects everyone. And when people unite, obviously that's where the power comes into play, and the establishment doesn't want that. They're afraid of that, and I mean they've definitely been effective. This is really like they kind of went back to the old school ways where it just didn't seem 10, 15 years ago that it was this racially divided. But income inequality affects almost everybody. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, and I think that's probably one thing that we could agree on, and that we could advocate against the establishment for, but also the freedom of information and the spreading of information. I think that the one thing that Trump kind of showed me was that regardless of what people think of Trump, the electorate did not buy the narrative. I think all of the money that the Clinton campaign spent into running and demonizing Trump with a certain narrative, it didn't work. And I think that they were stunned by it. And I think now we're starting to see the tactics being put into place that will try to at least stop the independent media or the free flow of information. I did an article last week. I covered an article last week from a guy. I forget what website it was, but he clearly, usually they try to beat around the bush and they say, well, because of, you know, racism or hate speech, that's why we have to have censorship. But this guy straight out was saying that, and it was like what you were talking about earlier, like now all you need from a technological standpoint to be an independent journalist is a camera or a cell phone or a computer. And he pointed out in the article, this is the problem, that it's too easy to join in, I guess, because the other thing is they don't like the fact that they went to school for all those years. And in some cases, some of the independent media people get more views and more people reading their material or watching their material than they do. But he basically advocated for a way to censor, you know, the average person from engaging in journalism, and we should leave it up to, you know, I guess the elites, or I forget what, he didn't use the word elites. I think he was he used some appeal to authority. I forget what it was. And so that was a very blatant attempt to advocate for massive censorship.
You know, it always starts off with nibbles until they take a big chunk.
Yeah.
You know, by the way, you know, I'm originally from Ethiopia. I left in '74. I take it back. I was born in '74 when the communists took over. The king of Ethiopia back then, Haile Selassie, was deposed by a Marxist named.
And they say redheads are sensitive.
Come on, for some reason. Anyways, the Marxists took over, and then for 8 years we saw Ethiopia saw hell as a nation that was surviving attack for close to 2,000 years. Actually, even longer than that, was demolished. More than 200,000 Ethiopians perished, and so what seemed initially impossible became horrifically possible. And you know, it starts off with small freedoms being taken away, with only a few people being otherized, and then eventually it becomes all. If this sounds very, you know, familiar, this is exactly what happened in Nazi Germany too. First they came in, the first ones that they targeted were actually the communists, and then they started targeting more and more, and then they started targeting the Jews, and then they started targeting, you know, people that had quote unquote defects, gays. Next thing you know, when they started that fire, eventually that fire consumed the whole of Germany. And one last point, actually, Rwanda too. If you'd have told Rwandans that 1 million Rwandans would die and be hacked to death, they would have never believed it. Except when hatred is spewed into the public space, and people are being agitated, you know, based on ethnic lines or racial lines or religious or political lines. What seems impossible one day could become horrifically evident the next day. So just be careful, because, like I wrote in the article about Martin Luther King, or I think it was Martin Luther King, and you quoted earlier. Revolutions seem cool until, you know, so until that happens, before that happens, it's better to be about love than to be about bullets in the heart. So that's my thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's interesting how a lot of times everyone plays from the same playbook. It's interesting that it doesn't matter whatever time period, whatever group is being discriminated against, and then if people point it out or advocate for that group, then they're attacked. And it's just interesting how that all works out, and it's just very scary that I do agree that there's parallels that you can point to now to Nazi Germany, and that's interesting. As far as, so you're saying Marxists basically took over Ethiopia, and I mean, was there like a similar pattern? Just, I mean, you did kind of point that out, but just are there any other like parallels that you see between that and now?
Well, so part of it, right? So it was students that initially were agitating for change, and so there is a similarity. You know, a revolution is always initially espoused by the idealists, and then it's hijacked hopefully I can say this. It's hijacked by the assholes, and
Yeah.
it's actually there was. What I've realized is that every revolution eventually devolves back into the same tyranny that gave birth to it. So even in the American Revolution War, it was the colonists that said, "Oh, we don't want taxes. We're being taxed without representation, and we're being governed without consent." Guess what?
Mm-hmm.
Being taxed without representation, because trust me, our voices matter nothing compared to the voices of plutocrats, and we're being governed without consent. When you only have 7% approval of Congress, and I think it was like mid-30s level of approval of Trump, that means that, and that's, by the way, only people that are registered to vote. When you take into account
Sure.
close to 70% of people don't vote or not registered to vote, then the vast majority of Americans do not consent to this government. So then we're being governed without consent, and we're being taxed without representation. Hello, 1776. It's like it never happened. So, in order to keep us distracted from these things, that's why corporate media is doing their.
Dude replied 2 comments over here. I gotta go over here.
All right, everyone. You remember when birtherism was birthed?
Girtherism, right? Over girtherism. Time to give Congress a cognitive test. We got one with a brain tumor, received several year prescribed medications for Alzheimer's disease. Amy P. It's time for all of them to get anally probed. Ankle bracelets out for dicks, Harambe. Girl that set loose in Congress would be a riot. Ankle bracelets out for dicks. Oh, when I laughed when I came up with that one.
Threat is amazing. That's just crazy that we're currently in this situation. We're almost out of time,
Sure.
But so as far as like the Guion Journal, what's like? Tell us about that. Do you also have a podcast? Like, what's your basic schedule?
By the way, the reason I call it's a Guion Journal, Gion. Yeah.
Oh, Guion.
So
okay.
the reason I call it that, it kind of goes back to my roots in Ethiopia. The river that we have now accepted as the Nile River, we Ethiopians have always called it the Guion River. I'm not trying to be a preacher over here, but in the Bible, actually, the 4 rivers mentioned in Genesis are the Guion, the Pishon, the Euphrates, and Tigris. So it was changed. And part of it was because history is always written by the winners at the cost of with the blood of the defeated. So this actually kind of does into what the whole media is that so powerful that it could change a river that was known by one thing by the people that know that river that live next to it to another name, and the world accepts it. So for me, calling it the Guion Journal is a process of reclaiming the truth from the liars. So not just in terms of in terms of the history of the country of my birth, but really of my home here in America. As much as I love Ethiopia, America is my home, and I'm forever grateful to America. So the same thing that was done to Ethiopia and the wider continent, it's also being done here as well. And so part of that is media has been weaponized. And so calling it the Guion Journal is a way to say, no, there is an alternative. We don't have to feed into the corporate model. So because of that, I disavow corporate contributions altogether. I don't do ad revenues at all. And there was a cafe that I was at when I was in Colorado, and it was called Foco Cafe. It was actually a restaurant that feeds homeless people and feeds business people, and people pay as they can. And it was a beautiful model.
Mm-hmm.
In that same space, you had people that were paying $20, $30, $40 for a meal, and then people that were paying nothing, and they ate together. And so
Sure.
I was like, wow, this is if you give the people a chance as opposed to charging them a fixed cost, then the better angels of humanity could come through. So I was inspired by that, and that's why we do the contribution-based model. And so it's an alternative. And what I'm hoping is that the Guerrero Journal succeeds in the space of independent journalism, not by trying to become the kings of the mountain, but by reaching out to people just like you, like A.J. Goodman, like Lee Camp, like Tim Black. I mean, the names are endless. If we could just somehow work together, Debbie, same progressive. I can never pronounce her last name, but folks have given me a leg up and give me a platform, and I'm hoping that I can do the same for others behind me as well. And as we work together, we could reclaim media from the hands of corporate journalism into the hands of the people, for the people, by the people, with the people. That's what I hope.
Yeah. That's absolutely. That's fantastic. So it's yonjournal.com. Do you have you're on Twitter and are you on YouTube?
Yeah. So as you can see, I'm an amateur at this because I should have done this before. But it's GHION, yonjournal.com is the website. On YouTube, the channel is GHION Journal. And that's on YouTube. And the Twitter, it's Teodros, TEODROSE, Fikre, FIKRE. And the Twitter account is GHION Journal, Yon Journal as well. And and on Facebook, we have a page there as well. But one thing that I'm trying to do as well is diversify the reach. Depending on just Facebook and Twitter, and YouTube, it's we're living in an age. In fact, I've gotten to the point now where I'm asking people to sign up to the newsletter, just to mitigate the risk of being shut out of the public square. So we're on Minds and MeWe.com and Diaspora Project, as many places as possible, so that we could diversify the reach of the Guerrero Journal. And that I'm hope other folks who are pursuing independent journalism. Let me give you this one advice. We have a lot of patience and perseverance. It doesn't, to make it in this space. I've been at this now for a year and it's still a struggle. But if this is your passion, put your head down, put out good work, and people that are thirsty for something different will come find you. And even when it seems like you're doing it for naught, if you just reach one person, that's more important than reaching 1,000 at the surface. So that's what I hope the Guerrero Journal is about, and that's what I try to do every day.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I highly recommend it. And Teodros, it's been great. We're about out of time, but I appreciate you coming on. I'd love to do it again sometime. And good
Definitely.
luck. And I'm absolutely rooting for you. And if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. And otherwise, we can just have another conversation on a different
Sure.
day.
And let me just say this: thank you for having me on.
Sure.
And I appreciate
absolutely
your fierce voice. If I could just end it with this on my end, everyone doesn't have to be cut from the same cloth. We all have different voices, and if we just pursue our passions through our voice, through our and find our purpose through our own way, we can make a difference collectively. We don't have to do it uniformly. So I appreciate your tenacity, and keep putting fire to the feet of people that are abusing their power. They need to be called out, and you're doing a great job of doing that. So I appreciate you as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I completely agree with that. And I like styles and even politics, all of that. Everyone, if people are for independent media and they're against the establishment and against corporate media, whatever people's personal beliefs are or styles, any is fine with me.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm completely on board with
There's
absolutely.
There's many. If justice is an ocean, there's many rivers to it. So let's try not to make each other do the same thing. Let's pursue our own passions, and hopefully one day we'll make the ocean of justice.
I completely agree. Awesome. Well, Teodoro has been fantastic. Thank you for joining me tonight, and we'll do this again soon.
Have a great night.
All right, take care. All right, that was Teodros Fickery from the Guyan Journal, and up next is H.A. Goodman. So we're going to switch right into that, and give me a moment to just kind of set that up, and I'll be back in about 5 minutes with H.A. Just a heads up, I'm going to stop the stream for about a minute while I set up all of the titles and stuff, so this should restart in about 1 to 3 minutes, something like that.
Please pardon me from stepping away there. I didn't mark my stream as being away there. I could have, but I had. I've gotten one thing taken care of, major thing. So I can pop this thing off. I had the radio running earlier. Where's the Bobbity? Ooh, the Bobbity's back.
Back to back tonight. H.A. Goodman, what's up?
What's up, HB? How are you?
Fantastic, fantastic. So, yeah, let's get right into this. I've noticed that there has been this kind of, and it happens, it goes in cycles. This is not the first time it's happened, but there seems to be a push, at least I've seen it, where people are saying, or stop talking about Hillary Clinton. I just did a video the other day of, there was a portion of Ben Dixon's podcast where he was talking some shit about you, which was funny. But the point is that people who are talking about Hillary Clinton are obsessed, and that we need to stop talking about Hillary Clinton, and that all of the things already have been investigated and no one found anything happening. And of course, it's just a coincidence that Ben Dixon's narrative completely matched word for word the corporate media's. I don't know, like what's the current climate now? I mean, I definitely think the walls seem to be caving in, but I'm still, I'm cautiously optimistic. But what's like the current state of affairs from your viewpoint with Clinton and all of the scandals?
I liken this to a boa constrictor just slowly closing in on the Clinton Foundation, Hillary Clinton. The issue is the boa constrictor being the Trump administration and the mountain of evidence. The mountain of evidence that points to Espionage Act indictments, RICO charges. The Clinton Foundation is a money laundering scheme. And it is if you're progressive, let's say, Ben Dixon's progressive, okay? He hates Trump. One would think that if you hated Trump, you would want to ensure that the power structure within the Democratic Party is completely destroyed. Hillary Clinton controls the Democratic Party because we're talking about
practically
Russia.
A visa, Uncle
We're
Bobbity.
not talking about
because Acosta is the port of entry.
That are
what does he have a
important to
tattoo of an anchor? Is what I asked first.
Or liberals. I'm no longer a progressive.
Right.
So yeah, but
sure.
So the people who are telling me or others to stop talking about Hillary Clinton, number one, in a way they're beholden to the CNN, DNC, MSNBC narrative that it's the past. And Hillary's no longer a candidate. Well, then why are we talking about Russia? Why are we still talking about something that there's no evidence behind it? The reason we're talking about it is because Hillary Clinton controls the Democratic Party still. The power structure, there's a reason that Tom Perez is DNC chairman. He's another Debbie Wasserman Schultz. They have not changed their tune. So I've been saying for a long time, and really, it's not so much reluctance to focus on Hillary Clinton. It's an uncomfortable topic for people who don't like Trump, because then they have to kind of look at Trump in a different manner. With Trump, it's, somebody said that he called a country shithole. With Hillary, it's she destroyed Libya with Obama. They literally destroyed an African nation with NATO bombing, meant to help the people of Libya. Then they left. Then Obama called it just a quote-unquote mistake. And Hillary called black youth super predators. Hillary Clinton shared a photo of Barack Obama, spread a photo of Barack Obama in African attire in 2008. Blatant racism. Clinton also stated that she wasn't leaving the race in 2008, and she evoked the assassination of RFK. This was during the first black president running for office, and she evokes somewhat, one of the most famous publicized assassinations in U.S. history. So she has she has a complete screw loose in her brain, obviously. But the thing is, you have district attorneys, and I talk about this every morning. U.S. attorneys. 17 U.S. attorneys have been nominated by Trump the past month or so, month and a half or so. The FBI is headed by Christopher Wray. The Department of Justice is headed by Jeff Sessions. They've renewed the FBI probe into the Clinton Foundation that actually started initially under Obama. There was so much evidence, HB, that they started this probe under Obama. And so, of course, the DOJ under Loretta Lynch stated they didn't want to go through with it. But the renewed Clinton Foundation probe, then there's a renewed email probe that Sessions is conducting at the DOJ. He's conducting it at the DOJ because he has all the evidence needed. He doesn't even need the FBI to collect evidence because the FBI already collected evidence. Now I think what they're doing is going after the Clinton Foundation for the litany of crimes. The people who are queasy about talking like James Comey, they don't want to address the massive corruption within the Democratic Party, because if they do, suddenly Trump isn't as evil as they claim him to be. Suddenly it's not, well, wait a second. He is said to have said, there's gossip and hearsay regarding his racism, but there's actual evidence of her actually stating racist things, calling Mahatma Gandhi a gas station attendant. So, I mean, Trump is a foil to them in many ways, and the Democratic Party and pundits who claim to be against Democrats but really kind of, further the same narratives, they cannot look at Trump objectively, because if they do, they'd see that Hillary Clinton is more warlike, more militant, more racist, more linked to scandal, that has a direct link to crime, that has a direct link to criminal behavior and statutes, laws broken, than anything Trump has done. So they can't, and they don't ever want to talk about Hillary anymore because it's a sore subject. Bernie Sanders was cheated. They would much rather pontificate. So that's my take.
Yeah, and I think that it's interesting, like, you two things can be happening at the same time. I don't even care if whatever people have of their criticisms for Trump, they can have them and simultaneously accept factual evidence about Hillary Clinton. And because I will hear people say, oh, well, this is whataboutism and it doesn't matter. If you have been following all of the developments going back to discovering through WikiLeaks that the media is basically the propaganda arm of the Democratic Party, if you've been following all these things, there's no possible way that you can accept that this is whataboutism. This is the biggest political scandal in our history, and because one of the arguments Ben made in the video is, well, if nothing happens to Clinton in 20 years when she's dead, people will still be talking about her. And I said, yeah, of course they would, because if nothing happens to her, this will go down as the biggest political scandal ever that no one paid any sort of price for. Of course people would talk about it. And the other thing that's interesting is the complete derangement syndrome that people have about Trump. I think people need to understand the reality. Trump is a Republican president. So certainly there's going to be plenty of things that because a lot of this stuff comes from people from the left. So of course there's going to be plenty of things that people are going to disagree on. There's going to be plenty of things people aren't going to like about his policy. He's a Republican. But even if you look at the last Republican president, you can't tell me that right now Trump is a worse president than George Bush. If loss of life is the most important metric, which I would argue that it is, it's not even close. And it's amazing to see people on the left almost wish for George W. over Trump, which is completely, that's unconscionable. Now, perhaps in 3 years, the body count will even out, because, Obama certainly has plenty to answer for in that regard. But there's just absolutely, it's almost as if you can't, view Trump as simply a Republican president that we vehemently disagree with. It is like he is the worst person to ever be president, and he must be removed, whether it's through the 25th Amendment, whether it's through this new bullshit book, which is I don't think I had a chance to ask you. I don't know if you saw the preface.
Yeah, I did for Fire and
of
Fury.
the book of Michael. What's your take on that?
It's the same. Yeah, it's the same thing that BuzzFeed put. These reports are unverified and contain factual errors. What they tried to do, HB, is they tried to replicate WikiLeaks, and WikiLeaks was pristine. WikiLeaks was basically just published the words written by the fingers of Hillary Clinton, Robbie Mook, Neera Tanden, all of them. It was their words that did them in. So then Democrats spun it to, oh my God, Russia allowed us to realize how horrible Hillary was. The thing with Trump is that he has not done anything close to Obama's NATO bombing of Libya. Obama facilitated the slave auctions taking place now. So any progressive, whether it's Ben Dixon or anyone who wants to challenge me, they have nothing to say regarding slave auctions in Libya. That's it, game over. Yeah. And so you can say, oh, HA, you speak too much, or whatever. Trump is president now, Hillary isn't. Yeah, but there's still slavery now in Libya, and it's a failed state because of Obama. It's an African nation that was destroyed in large part because of Clinton and Obama. I think that's a little bit worse than Trump saying shithole or allegedly saying shithole. Yeah. And that's the thing. Yeah. There's nothing Trump has done that can even touch that. Let's not then talk about the fact that, well, I mean, where do we start? President Obama's. Where do we start? President Obama's war against whistleblowers. So, this whole issue with press freedom, the press, I can't wait for the fake news awards. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, I lean left in terms of policies, but you know what? Sure. I was thinking about it the other day, HB. The left, quote unquote left, they don't want single payer. They definitely don't want to bring home soldiers. They don't really want the things. What they want is to complain and to preach and to lecture. The Democratic Party and liberal pundits or progressive pundits generally, the Cenk Uygurs and the Young Turks and the, the Sam Cedars, David Pack, and all of them, they want to lecture. And they want to teach you how wrong you've been thus far. Looking at things from the vantage point of, hey, Obama destroyed Libya and black poverty increased under Obama, and Hillary called black youth super predators, and the Clinton Foundation is a money laundering scheme. They don't want to address those issues. They want to funnel everyone's outrage into the next Democratic nominee, which will 100,000 million% not be Bernie, even though he's running, because I believe he's running as an independent, but even if he ran as a Democrat, they would never allow him to win. I don't believe they're going to allow Tulsi Gabbard. If Nina Turner ran, they wouldn't allow her. So, that's why I love you, Tim Black, Nico House. There are other voices. Bullshit Man is amazing. He's awesome. I got to give a shout out to him. But Caitlin Johnston, of course, Elizabeth Voss, Susie Dawson, of course, WikiLeaks, and Julian Assange is, absolutely. The epitome, I would say, the epitome of truth is WikiLeaks and Assange, but the truth leads to democratic corruption. And the fact is that Democrats are far more corrupt than Republicans, but they don't want to, they don't want to hear that, and they don't want to accept that. So it's just, once Trump wins in 2020, and he will, and once Republicans do well in 2018, you'll see a gradual erosion of the lecturing, because they've thrown everything, including the kitchen sink, at Trump, and it's just everything backfires. Every single thing backfires, and I mean, look at Justice Democrats as an example. No more Cenk Uygur, no more Kyle Kalinske. And it was essentially a failed power grab. So every single attempt by the quote unquote like acceptable mainstream liberal voices has failed. From, oh, well, you know, Bernie was cheated, you got to vote for Hillary, to, oh, there's this thing called Justice Democrats, to Trump is fat, oh my God, you know, impeach. To, like, you know, all this gossip and hearsay. And I think something that was insidious, absolutely insidious, was Charlottesville, because a woman died, Heather Heyer. And notice how all you heard about were Nazis. Now you don't hear about Nazis. Now suddenly, all you heard, now they're going back again. Trump is racist. Well, Clinton is more racist. And it's not, the whole thing with whataboutism, it's not whataboutism. It's, if you are upset over this, you should be mortified, indignant over what took place in the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
Don't be a hypocrite.
Exactly. Be consistent in your argumentation. It's very, very simple, very simple standard. And I don't think I could possibly be credible in the fact that, like, this is the political arena that we're in. It's almost like a battlefield. And so the idea that I would let any of these people get away with this bullshit, and look, it's a different conversation if it's outside of the political arena. Like, you take the shithole comment, right? Obviously, if you and I are having dinner, or someone that you know, and you're both having dinner, and outside of the political battlefield, if one person calls the other person's country a shithole, that's obviously a rude.
You were talking bad about bankers, though. That's why I asked.
Putting your feet up on someone's table. However, in the political battlefield, the idea that Lindsey Graham would say anything to Donald Trump about calling a country a shithole. He called, I think, Central America and Mexico hellholes. So Trump is like this mirror to all of these people, and they try to point to him and say, oh, look how bad he is. He's doing the exact same thing that they've been doing. And it's just not, I just don't think it's possible if you look at everything, and you look at, like I said, how WikiLeaks exposes the media is in bed with the Democrats, that you have this push from the deep state to remove Trump from office. I fail to see something that is more important than this right now, that you could possibly remove a sitting president over bullshit. I mean, everything that they're trying so far. And look, if they found something legitimate, I would advocate for removal immediately. But they haven't. And you can't remove sitting presidents, no matter how much people hate them, over bullshit. It fundamentally changes the fabric of the nation. And we haven't even, and talking about this, I don't even think, and you just brought it up from the standpoint of if whoever it is, Nina Turner or Bernie Sanders runs, they won't let them win, because none of the problems have been addressed in regards to the Democratic primary. And I just think that it's almost not naive, but it's just it would be a dereliction of our duty that anytime people bring up the Democratic primary, or they bring up things about Trump, to point out what is currently going on. So if you want to talk about the Democratic primary, obviously it is important to bring up how broken it is, and nothing has been addressed, so they will be able to just put whatever candidate they want in there.
HB, let me tell you something. I'm going to talk about the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton after the indictments hit.
Orange Nazi.
So I will not stop talking about all of it. So I mean, the whole thing is, no one should ever stop talking about what happened to Bernie Sanders and how he was cheated by the DNC and how he was cheated by Hillary Clinton. Ever. I don't care if there's if Ted Cruz, if 8 years of Trump, which there will be 8 years of Trump, and Ted Cruz in what, 2028? No, 2024. Ted Cruz in 2024. So if Ted Cruz wins again, I'll still be talking about Hillary. You want to know why? Because if Ted Cruz wins in 2024 and Trump will win in 2020, it will be because people do not want to talk about Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party and how corrupt they are. It's not, there's nothing Trump has done. He hasn't even been accused of a crime, HB. They don't even know what the fuck he did.
No.
Okay, they don't even know. They're like, oh,
he's eating Burger
we
King.
have to keep investigating. Why don't we fucking why don't we indict based on the evidence which is going to take place?
Yeah.
Check this out. This is really interesting. Rudy Giuliani's law partner is now the U.S. Attorney in New York, a very, very important position that Preet Bharara used to hold, and now Preet Bharara, all he does every day on Twitter is, hate on Trump. Well, guess what's going to happen? Rudy Giuliani, he has stated in a segment I did today, and I'm very low tech. I just put the audio, and it's 20 to 30 crimes that he could have literally 20 to 30 crimes that he could have easily indicted Clinton on regarding the foundation. 20 to 30. And now that's just now that's the foundation. That's the Clinton Foundation. We're not talking about the Espionage Act. We're talking about RICO.
You could take it out and she would still be completely fucked.
Yeah, we're talking about RICO laws and racketeering and bribery, all those other things. And so the evidence is already there. So you have these, and Trump, I did some research and, from my segments, he personally interviewed the two new conservative U.S. attorneys in New York. So he personally interviewed them. And so, I mean, the writing's on the wall. Just like in 2015, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or whatever, but I said, look, Clinton's going to lose if it's Trump. And people thought I was absolutely crazy. Now there's a renewed, now they're kind of telegraphing. It's kind of like Babe Ruth calling the shot in the World Series. It's renewed. It's a renewed probe. And of course, nobody makes an issue of it. CNN, Washington Post are like, oh, by the way, it's a renewed probe. They don't talk about it because they're like, oh, no, nothing's going to happen. They're not doing it for their health. First of all, Sessions said he was going to recuse himself. He didn't. So that's kind of interesting. He said he was going to recuse himself from the email probe. He didn't. And there's 17 new prosecuting attorneys, including a new one in Little Rock, a new one in California, and 2 new ones in New York. And these are all new attorneys in the locations, the geographic locations that are where the FBI field offices are investigating the Clinton Foundation.
That's fantastic.
So,
this is great.
So all they're going to do is present the mountain of evidence. And the funny thing is, this is another crazy thing that I kind of, analyzed and kind of discovered today or yesterday when I was doing the segment. But Boeing, for example, is just one of many scandals. Boeing gave $5 million to the Clinton Foundation because they care about charity, and they suddenly got a $3 billion Russian jet deal. They they were asked to give emails, and they're like, F off. We're not giving any emails to anyone. Well, they said we'll only give emails if we're
the Oregonian bong salute.
So the interesting thing about that's just like one of like 100. That's like, it's like a horrible scandal that would put anyone behind bars, but it's like one of it's like a minor scandal compared to everything else, the UBS, Uranium One, all of it. But the interesting thing is, if they have an email that says clintonemail.com that the State Department did not disclose, that's a deleted email.
Oh, interesting. So what, like almost like a backdoor way to recover?
Because their deleted emails went to places.
Shit.
And so by the way, Platte River and Dado Inc. have all 30,000 deleted emails. I explained that in my book about her top secret emails and about her deleted emails. But the great thing about this is it's so amusing to kind of like their whole thing is catch me if you can, stop talking about it, it's Russia. And I'm like, wait a second. So Boeing was during the election, nobody really talked about it. It was like a minor, tiny, it's a big scandal, because they actually donated it to Haiti also. So it's all convoluted and effed up. But they're like, no, we're not going to give you emails. Guess what Boeing also did? They had a big deal in Iran with the airline in Iran, the national airline. So that correlates potentially to incentive for the Iran deal. But see, again, that's if they have an email and they're subpoenaed for emails, and it wasn't a disclosed email, she's screwed. And that, you could multiply that times 1,000. Because there's, well, actually, you could multiply that times 33,000. Because her idiot lawyers deleted 33,000 emails.
And, you know, the other thing is they just completely bullshit people when they're like, oh, there's nothing new with this. This is all old. There's literally every other day something coming out new. The indictment was just handed down to one of the people involved in bribing officials in the Uranium One scandal. Yeah. So, yeah.
Like a Twinkie without the filler.
That, like, I guess, talk about that there's basically it's your first indictment in the Uranium One.
Shitty, crumbly, dry cake.
And this would be absolutely brilliant. The indictments are going to hit. So, I mean, if I know we have, I'm very honored that we have, you know, mutual followers, people who watch our channel. If you watch my channel, I'm always saying the indictments are going to hit. They will hit. But what needs to take place, and what would be amazing and brilliant, is when the indictments take place and you have like these litany of charges and it's obvious the criminal behavior is there, Sessions going to prosecute. And if she's, you know, not guilty, she'll have to, but she'll very likely strike a plea deal. She's not going to prison.
Yeah.
Or they don't offer her a plea deal and it's like the, you know, trial of the century, and she'll, you know, both Clinton, Bill, Hillary, Uma, they'll all lose. But what has to happen is Trump has to fire Mueller and tell the Democratic Party to go fuck itself. That must happen. And what on earth? Okay, then they're going to try to impeach Trump. But the question would then be, well, what crime did he commit?
Right.
So Trump has to fire Mueller. And I think it'll probably take place in the indictments will be 2018, because the Republican Party needs to fight back from this endless, idiotic barrage of Trump Russia. After, excuse me, fake news awards, whatever, I think the fake news awards are like this preemptive strike for when the media loses its frickin' minds over the indictments. And then the congressional seats in 2018, the midterm elections, those I don't think Democrats will do well, because it's mostly Democrats, you know, up for their seats are up for grabs. So, I think in 2019, if Mueller keeps indicting people for things that have nothing to do with Trump, then Trump will just fire Mueller, and they'll lose their crap.
Yeah, I mean, it's about time. The whole investigation, the more stuff comes out about it, the more you realize how illegitimate and how much of a witch hunt it is. There was, I forget who wrote the article. I don't remember who it was. I don't know if you read the article where it wasn't like completely conclusive, but they argued that it looks like it's very possible that the way that Fusion GPS did the dossier was it was the former Wall Street Journal journalists that basically created most of it, and then they got Steele to kind of make it look legitimate. And so even without that, though, just given how completely unverifiable, and that's not even the word, the completely uncredible dossier, and then how that's used for FISA warrants. Then the media denies that it's being used, and then you had people like Elizabeth Foley go on CNN and give Anderson Cooper the exact date that they ran. That was a fun video to do, where they said that they used the dossier for the FISA warrant for Carter Page, and when all of this stuff comes out, this is not only a complete bullshit of an investigation, but the level of corruption in the Obama administration with, unmasking people for political purposes. Watergate pales in comparison to all of this, and it's not just Clinton; it's also Obama and the administration, and the fact that the power grab that the Clintons were about to do had she won the election, and still the amount of power that she has now, like. They have to break this up. I mean, if people are upset with Google, which I am, and the level of power they have when it comes to censorship, it's like times 1,000 with Hillary Clinton. I mean, they basically almost set up a monarchy in this country.
Yeah, I mean, the people who are watching right now, just go Google Politico Fusion GPS testimony or Fusion GPS Glenn Simpson testimony. They're going to get an article, read Fusion GPS dossier interview, full transcript. You click on it, it's a PDF. Now, I did this in a segment, and this is interesting, HB. If you do a word search for collusion, you would think collusion would be a word used, right? Zero.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, this is hundreds of pages of lies and testimony from this guy Glenn Simpson, who's a joker. Guy's like the biggest, like one of the biggest clowns of all time. In addition to, like, they're all mini Debbie Wasserman Schultzes. But collusion, nothing. Now you would think, with all the talk about WikiLeaks would be in here, right? Because oh my God, he was in Russia. Nothing. Zero mention of WikiLeaks. Zero mention of collusion. Type in Assange, zero mention. Hackers, zero mention. Okay.
What the hell were they talking about?
They were it was a lot of like philosophical debate, if you could believe that, because this guy Glenn Simpson tried to kind of like circumvent. So evidence is mentioned 5 times, and I can read you each of the times that have nothing to do with Trump. You would decide that based on what you find out, this is a question, evidence of fraud. So that's generally the way we do it. Okay, so that was an answer where it was had nothing to do with the actual answer. The bulk of Russian English translating, just for chain of evidence reasons went from her to another guy, but that's a figure of speech. But to frame the reference of someone else putting forth a piece of evidence, which is this, it inevitably creates confusion. So now, this is, I think, one of the lawyers, is the question. So beyond the dossier, did you find any kind of evidence with Carter Page? Then the answer is, well, the definition of compromise is someone who has been influenced. And then the next reference to evidence is a question.
Is crazy.
Did you feel in the course of that you had uncovered evidence of any criminal activity by Donald Trump? In the course of that, I don't think so.
Oh my God, this is so ridiculous.
So,
oh my God.
So it's unbelievable. They're not even good at lying.
But it's still a credible document, David Pakman. David Pakman the other day was like, more and more aspects of the dossier are being verified. No, they're not. I pulled the Burr-Warner press conference where they indicated where the wall was, and it's basically in the beginning of the first, I don't remember what they called the first entry into the dossier. But that's not this idea that, like, they're just kind of slowly getting all these like breaking news stories and confirming things in the dossier. It's just
but if I said, and this is another dumb thing, like ridiculous rebuttal. Well, some of it's true, but that's what gossip is. Gossip is some things are true. Right. So if I said David Pakman and Sam Cedar and another gentleman were outside a movie theater, and that other gentleman was a Russian spy, and they were giving classified information, that could have been Pakman's cousin, and they were watching a movie. But if I elaborate and embellish, that's what gossip is. If I say well, these people were at a movie theater and then say, oh, and they were doing other things too. The fact, yes, it's true, they were at a movie theater. But everything else that I'm lying about, that's pure gossip and hearsay. That's why gossip or hearsay can't be used as evidence. And that's why Fusion GPS won't be around much longer, and BuzzFeed won't be around much longer, because they're going to lose very, very expensive defamation suits from 3 Russian bankers, a Russian entrepreneur, and Trump's lawyer is suing GPS, Fusion GPS, because he wasn't even in, I think it was Prague, or he wasn't even there. So, and the thing is, like, the absurdity of it all. So they're caught red-handed cheating Bernie Sanders. Then the absurdity is, oh my God, we know how horrible Clinton is, so therefore it's a Russian plot to inform the country of how horrible she is. And then they just dig a deeper and deeper hole. They start spying on Trump in 2015. CHQ in the UK, their equivalent of the NSA, started spying on Trump in 2015. They found nothing. They don't have anything, because he just beat Clinton. Like, he just defeated her. There was no, he didn't need help. And then this whole thing of like dirt on Clinton, just do a Google search.
Yeah.
Twitter's closed down.
It's not like
Fuck right off.
endeavor.
Donald J. Trump on Twitter.
It's amazing how there's like direct parallel between the standard or level of
and the
evidence
fake news winners are
the standard of and level evidence of the Fire and Fury book. It's the same shit, but the difference is, like, Fire and Fury is a book. The dossier was used at the highest level of government. Like, that is so unconscionable that it would get to that point. And it's you have that, and then it seems like the media is trying to pass this idea that something can be true if it's unverified, but that it has the ring of truth, and they're claiming that they have to do this because we're in a post-truth or a post-fact world because of Trump. So basically, because of Donald Trump and how evil he is, we have to be able to lie when we tell stories. It's a precedent that can't stand. And I do hope you're right about sites like BuzzFeed. I've been advocating for a few of the big sites having to suffer the consequences of because in many cases they're libeling people. So I don't want to see the libel, like Trump says, the libel law is opening up. I don't want to see that. I don't even want to see Trump involved. I want to see other people sue the shit out of these companies. So hopefully, maybe if 2 or 3 go down, then that's going to send some fear into some of these other outlets that they're at least going to scale back the level of bullshit, because what we're experiencing now is so beyond anything that I even thought was possible. I mean, that book is... I mean, I started this over a year ago, and I don't recall there being a situation where I remember multiple outlets having people on to talk about how shitty of a journalist Wolf was, but then simultaneously argue, but this information rings true, and it is the reason that Trump must be removed from office.
Yeah, well, insane. I mean, the whole information rings true crap. I mean, that is... What they've tried to do is they've tried to replicate WikiLeaks, and what they think they think WikiLeaks publishing the truth is the same as them lying. So WikiLeaks publishing the truth is viewed as, oh my God, Assange sided with Trump, and then their retaliation to that is, let's lie and hurt Trump, and it's the same thing. So they've completely lost sense of reality, and you're not going to see Maddow, Joy Reid, Chris Hayes after Trump wins in 2020. That whole media apparatus, you're going to see more independent voices, and you're going to see just a complete change. It won't be a focus on this type of gossip, there won't be that focus anymore, because there can't be. It's not. It's just not feasible. It's not feasible.
Yeah, there is, like, I would consider it probably things slipping through the cracks, but there is, I saw in the past 2 weeks things that are highly unusual. There was an article from the Washington Post where the guy broke down, like, statistically how much the quote Russian Facebook ads could have affected the election, and the whole article was basically that this is all bullshit, and that on its best day, even taking ads from, or in this case this was Twitter bots, taking Twitter bots that tweeted in 2015, but taking all of them and putting them all on election day, they would have accounted for like 0.02 of all tweets on election day. Absolutely impossible for it to have influenced the election in any way. And that was the Washington Post. And then you had I forget the guy's name, Callan, I think his name is Paul Callan, wrote an article for CNN, and even had a clip. Now, it was once, but he had a clip on CNN where they interviewed him, and he said Trump's right about the FBI, and I almost passed out.
Yeah.
So I do wonder, as we get closer to this, there might be some people that realize that they might either need to jump ship, or just for self-preservation, kind of reverse the narrative and try to maybe say, oh, well, maybe Trump isn't so bad, and try to save themselves. Because ultimately, I think that once a lot of these outlets see the writing on the wall, they're just going to care about survival and money, because that's really ultimately what corporate media
when the indictments take place, and they will, what's going to happen first is indignation heard throughout the ever-expanding universe. And it will be indignation. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, her yell of outrage will be heard, light years, hundreds and thousands of light years away.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fickle motherfuckers are going to then just do an about face. And they are going to delve into this more than I ever have. And because they're looking at money, honey. So they're saying, wait, Trump indicted Clinton. And then they're going to realize that everyone fucking hates the Clintons.
Yeah.
Even people who hate Trump hate the Clintons. Yeah. And it's going to be a cash machine for CNN, even MSNBC. I mean, Fox for sure. But everyone's going to be talking about it. And our voices, I would say, your voice, Tim Black, Nico House, our voices are all going to be to increase exponentially in terms of influence. Because, like you said, if Trump actually did collude with Russia, my channel would grow by me, exposing the actual collusion.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, I don't want to diss like other channels, but you have channels where, like you said, they have 400,000, 300,000, like 500,000, and they're just talking about the evidence in the Fusion GPS dossier. Could you imagine if there was actually evidence? Like, you and I would be talking about it, our channels would grow even faster than they are.
Absolutely. It would be the audience for that. That's basically the mainstream pussy hat where the channels would blow up. It would be insane.
And that's the thing. It's the pussy hat. Democrats cheated and lost, and like, what can we do next to regain our power? And it's like the pussy hat strategy, the resistance, the Russia. Like, no one cares. Even the Democrats who hate Trump, they're like, what? I don't know. We'll just go with it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care. That doesn't mobilize. I used to be like a hardcore, like, liberal. I used to, back in the day, like Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, if you could believe that. And
interesting.
Like, but I know what motivates liberal voters, or progressive voters, and it's not Russia. They don't give a shit.
Yeah.
They only care.
Yeah.
And Sam Seder basically spilled the beans and basically told the truth to Tim Black, and Tim, destroyed Sam in that debate. But Sam Seder basically said, "Yeah, I know it's bullshit, but it helps my side."
Yeah, I remember that.
And
That
so
was
it's
amazing.
like, no, it's not. Doesn't help your side, number one, and it's bullshit, number two, and you're doubling down on all the corruption, because the Democratic Party is still running on 1990 software. They're like, oh well, they're all corrupt, and you know what? If Hillary and Bill are just as corrupt, and the DNC is just as corrupt, and that's just how we have to play the game. It's like, no.
Yeah. No.
People are done with that, and also try to have some evidence of criminal wrongdoing before you accuse, because then it's this never-ending thing where, you just got to keep investigating. How many times have you heard this, HB, where you ask somebody, well, is there evidence? Well, we have to investigate. That's what an investigation is for. It's like, no.
Yeah.
An investigation is for a crime.
That's how Stalin did it, I think. Yeah. Yeah, show me the man, I'll show you the crime. I
Yeah.
think that was Stalin, right? And that's what they're doing with Trump. None of these people would accept that standard for themselves. If you went up to Joy Reid or Rachel Maddow and said, we think you might be guilty of some sort of crime, so we're going to start an investigation and to see if we can find something. It's ridiculous.
It's insane. And they keep losing. That's the thing, they keep losing. And everyone knows what they're up to. It's not like their value system it's so fucked up. And it's not whataboutism. It's always been, if there's a hierarchy, if you are a liberal or progressive or to the left, shouldn't you put Libya getting destroyed above a shithole comment? Like, what is this whole thing now? Like, look, I'm cool. Like, if whatever floats your boat, I'm cool with. Just, if it floats your boat, great. So this whole thing with gender fluid. Okay, that is actually a thing now, where if you disparaged it, but also stated, well, hey, Hillary Clinton committed crimes, or any Obama used the Espionage Act against whistleblowers more so than any president combined, than all the presidents combined. It's like, yawn, whatever.
Yeah. While simultaneously claiming that Trump is the worst world leader when it comes to press freedom, which is
and the interesting thing also is that they've actually had to fabricate indignation. That's how pathetic they are.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I just covered that. I think it was with the Kristen Gillibrand tweets, the Young Turks, and it was almost like when all of the corporate media clowns got the notes that it said there, act like you're really bothered by this. You really must act, and because it was ridiculous. And I think that was the same week that the Young Turks did a video where they were making a big deal about Trump drinking Diet Coke and eating McDonald's, and mid-video they were like, you know what, I eat burgers all the time, I can't really. It's like they just gave up. They were like, fuck it, I know we're supposed to make a big deal out of it. They couldn't do it. That was amazing. But yeah, they were acting. It was fucking ridiculous.
When in 2020, election night, I'm gonna do a segment. Yeah, I mean we have to do a segment on election night or something. But
absolutely,
I'm gonna do a segment where I'm just gonna explain to every quote unquote liberal pundit that regurgitates DNC talking points. I'm just gonna say, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You don't know shit about politics. And you didn't, and from 2015 till 2020, you have been absolutely dead wrong on everything. They've never been right. From 2015 until today, whether it's Clinton winning or Russian interference or whatever, they haven't been right on anything. And here, not only have they not been right, you have Cenk Uygur talking about Trump won't make it out of the first year.
Yeah. Yeah, was that the video at the crystal ball?
Yeah.
That was his prediction. I remember that. Yeah, I should go back.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw your video on that.
To the archives.
And it's just unbelievable. Hollywood was supposed to go up against Trump. Now Hollywood's crumbling because they're the biggest bunch of hypocrites and like perverts on the planet. And it's just one day very soon, the lecturing on the left, they won't have a pedestal to lecture from. So.
Yeah, I feel like that pedestal really got put into effect like when the Supreme Court ruled for gay marriage, and I fully support gay marriage. I think it was fine. I agreed with that. It was like that was the big like holy shit, we won. And then it was like, you know what? From now on, we don't even have to argue our shit anymore. We're just going to beat Republicans until they submit. And ultimately, that tactic hasn't worked. And now we're in a situation where, I mean, it looks like the strategy for the midterms is, well, you know, we're going to bring Donna Brazile back on, which is incredible. She's part of the DNC again. That's absolutely incredible. And we're going to just, I guess, run on fuck Trump and possibly impeachment or collusion, and these are things that voters don't care about. And look, I think you can kind of read the tea leaves a little bit when people like Malcolm Nance go on MSNBC and they say, "Oh, the blue wave could happen, but we would never know because the Russians are going to come in and change the vote tally." Something that's never happened. That would be the most unbelievable feat for that to happen. It would be. It's insanity, and so they're already going to blame.
Well, I think they're gonna. I actually think it's going to be even more hilarious. They're going to have to blame a new country because Russia's played out. So I'm wondering if they can't blame Russia forever.
That's true.
They're going to blame. You know what? They're going to blame Iran or North Korea.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah. You couldn't get away with China. You couldn't get away with China, but you could. Yeah, you could.
No, the trade is too important with China, and you know. So
Yeah,
they're gonna say that, or they're just gonna completely implode. They're probably going to lash out at the electorate and just say that the whole country is as insane as Trump, and that's another thing.
Yeah.
What kind of like this? Sorry to use profanity, but what kind of sick fucks? What kind of sick fucks go and get like these like, you know, idiot psychiatrists or psychologists who like, I mean, it's almost like this Twilight Zone world where if somebody
sick fucks are us,
HB, I think that you're acting a little weird. Are you sure you're okay? Are you sure your mind is okay? So they're like, nothing worked. Charlottesville didn't work. Nothing. Someone died there. Heather Heyer died in Charlottesville. Nothing worked. The Russian thing, nothing worked. Oh, now they're like, oh, he's crazy. We have psychologists who say that, or psychiatrists. They're like, oh, that didn't work. And then it's like, oh, he's fat. He's gonna die. His arteries.
Yeah.
They're absolutely out of their fucking minds.
They are. They're out of their fucking minds. Yeah. Sanjay Gupta diagnosed Donald Trump with heart disease right on the air. Like, what the fuck are these people doing? And so the hilarious thing, because you know the psychiatrist, I thought to myself, okay, what kind of life situation is she in, where she's been presented, hey, completely discredit yourself and all that you've worked with to go after Trump. Well, it turns out that apparently she wasn't even licensed, that her license expired. And then, of course, we have today with the results of his physical. He's completely fine. He took the cognitive test.
Yeah, but HB, I spoke to one of my friends who most of my friends are like you know, Democrats / you know, and so one of my buddies, he just couldn't stop talking about Trump's weight, and I'm like, I don't care how much he weighs. Do you understand?
I know.
And they're like, well, he's not 220, he's 240, he's 250, he's 260. I'm like, I don't give a fuck if he's 350.
I know. I don't. Wouldn't they be happy? Because then it would mean he would die quicker. Like, it doesn't even make any sense. They don't want that. They want to have a reason to remove him from office. Fatness is not a reason to remove someone from office. Although I can't wait to see what they actually try to impeach him.
Well, but they can't. But that's the thing. There won't be. There's no. You have to commit a crime, and then the whole obstruction. They're going to try to probably get him on obstruction of justice or whatever,
but there's no
Right,
crime
right.
that he's obstructing.
Right.
If they say, well, he was obstructing the investigation, then link it to how he's preventing information from a crime. You know?
Yeah, there's no statute, and you know the other thing that's interesting is it because it's a political process. It looks like people are kind of losing their I don't know, their gumption for impeachment, because the several times they've previously done it, people like Pelosi were against it, and I realize she's waiting for Mueller. But the other thing, this was interesting. Like Jeff Flake, for example, gave an anti-Trump speech, and what I thought was really telling is no one stayed to listen except for like one person, Durbin, who is a total piece of trash. He's completely ridiculous. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, like no one watched that. Like I think that tells you that like people are kind of, at least some politicians are getting used to, okay, look, this is a Republican president, he's the president, we have to deal with it. I guess it's like the stages of grief. You have like denial, and I think maybe they're heading into another phase of acceptance that finally, look, you're going to have a Republican president, and you're going to have to deal with it. But I do think it was significant that nobody was there for Flake's speech.
Yeah. Well, also, Trump is hilarious in that he's the perfect politician to survive endless scandals that aren't linked to crimes. So what he'll go he'll call Dick Durbin Dickie. So he'll tweet out like, you know, crazy liar Dickie Durbin, and it's just hilarious.
Yeah, no, people don't like the tweets. I think they're funny, and like this is the thing. Like I love politics from the standpoint of talking about it and covering it, but I hate politics if I were to actually have to get involved with it. And I think that's why Trump makes me laugh, because he doesn't care, and he will just do that, and he'll call out bullshit or the hypocrisy with the other politicians, and then there just doesn't seem to be. I mean, who's going to care? I think the newest thing that I've seen is there's going to be some sort of report about his relationship with a porn star, and I'm just like, no one cares about this kind of shit. Like,
oh yeah,
this is not. Yeah.
Again,
like no one cares.
It's like exactly, no one cares, and more people are talking about the fake news awards, which I don't know if he's done them already.
Yeah, I've been looking all day and waiting. I thought it was going to be a show, and that would have been awesome. But I think it's just it's unbelievable how what I enjoy is, and the fake. Whoa, what's this? Oh, has he got it? I'm going to bring it up too. Hold on.
Oh, it's GOP.com. Okay.
GOP Twitter account is the
no.
one
It's the Trump. It's the Trump account, but then.
Oh, here it is. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, I definitely got to cover this on the news stream.
I don't know why it's still loading for me. Like I don't.
Yeah, me too. It's probably crashing because there's a million people on it. So wait, he got GOP.com to do this? Oh my God.
And that's the thing. It's so amusing, and it's just so. And then. And it's just so amusing that I can't even. Yeah, it's definitely like there are too many people clicking on it, but
that's exactly what's happening. Yeah, they can't take the
But in 1 hour, check this out. In 1 hour, this is how. And people listening to us or people listening to me might say, "Oh my God, AJ, oh you love Trump," and I'm like, I didn't vote for his policies. I voted for Jill Stein and Bernie Sanders. I wrote 100 articles, okay, and I was on MSNBC or whatever. But it's actually brilliant what he's doing. He is. What could be more brilliant, HB, than multi-billion-dollar conglomerates doing everything to take you down, and every single pundit, and we're talking almost every single pundit, from Washington Post journalists to MSNBC contributors, whatever, talking about how crazy and stupid and insane and idiotic you are, and then he flips the script on them every single time.
Yeah.
And in 1 hour, he gets 33,000 likes and 14,000 retweets.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I view the media as the enemy of the people. I don't think you need Trump, because I know he said that. I don't care that he said that. I think that's a fact. I think these people need to be called out, and if the president does it, that's fine with me. I don't have
Absolutely.
an issue.
And furthermore, that just shows it's never good. Okay, theoretically, it wouldn't be good for a president to do this, but
sure,
in terms of practical matters, realistically, you have CNN, that's an extension of DNC. We know that from WikiLeaks, DNC and Podesta emails. I mean, Glenn Thrush was like, "Oh, don't tell anyone I did this. I'm a complete hack."
Yep.
Yep. And then, of course, they spun it to, well, it was just a fact-checking thing. Well, then why did you tell Podesta not to tell anyone?
Why did you say that you were a hack? He said it. He absolutely said it.
So.
Yeah, I agree. I think if we were in a different climate, I would have an issue with what Trump was doing. But under the circumstances, this group or whatever you want to call it, the deep state, this has to be broken up. And if he's the one to do it, then so be it. And then we'll worry about the slippery slope after it's over. And who knows? Maybe a couple years from now, I'll be criticizing Trump 24/7 because he's taking it further than I would have wanted him to, and he's actually censoring people. But when it comes to censorship, it's really the corporations and the anti-Trumpers that are doing the censorship. He hasn't done anything, unless you want to consider telling Jim Acosta to get out of the room that they're in. Censorship. I mean, they're going to call out Jim Acosta's First Amendment rights being trampled, but like that's not. He's a corporate
milk.
chill. Fuck Jim Acosta.
Like, we're supposed to feel sorry for CNN. Their only goal, conservatives have Fox, and I guess you could say Breitbart, but the DNC, I won't even say liberals or progressives because the DNC doesn't care. They have MSNBC, CNN, Washington Post, New York Times, every subsidiary channel,
everything,
and they're constantly PACs. They outspent Trump 2-1, and they still continue to freaking lose. So
yeah, it's because people are waking up. That's what's fantastic. And I mean, you can tell. I mean, you look at. I look at Social Blade just to get a gauge of how people are doing. Like, your channel is like higher than it's been in. I mean, I don't know. I can't say long term, but it's very high right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, people want to hear about Hillary Clinton and what's going on. It's not just like a few people.
All I had to say was,
it's complete bullshit.
Christianity wants slaves.
I've never gotten any sort of like regular viewer to say any of this. It's always people that I've never seen before, and I'm like, I don't even know who this is, and it's absolutely what the people
and I think that
do I still have a channel?
And people in general aren't speaking enough about Hillary Clinton. You can't commit so many crimes for so long and not have it eventually, ruin you politically. That's just not. I mean, at the end of the day, I always say, Bill and Hillary Clinton are human beings, and the power and influence, the way they've wielded power and influence, it's kind of like their moment in the sun is up, and the karma is closing in on them politically, big time.
I throw that.
So, and that whole fire. Did you see the Truth Factory song on that? Oh my God!
No.
No. On the fire in the Clinton in the residence. The.
Oh
my God!
No. Yeah, I know people were cracking me up when they were like, they're probably burning evidence, and I thought they probably are. I mean, what the fuck?
Have you seen Truth Factory? It's like it's this channel. Have you heard of that channel? It's pretty awesome.
I've never
it's
heard of
based.
You know what? I'll go ahead. It's like these cats, and there's a great narrator, and very, very intelligent, woman who runs the channel. and she's just fantastic. And hold on. Oh, hold on. Let me see if you can. Let me just see if you can hear this. Okay. Okay. Hold on.
Look at your pencils, you're a disgrace, and everyone knows it, everyone knows.
Did she say you're a disgrace and everyone knows it? Oh, that's a guy like that.
These
That's
cats.
fantastic.
And check this out.
This house is on fire.
So they,
Oh, that's fun.
they have these.
This house is
I gotta
on
ask
fire.
There's
Francis,
cats playing,
Francis, are you referring
and,
to?
and it's just, you know what? Maybe I can go log on to your chat.
Are you referring
And then
to
just
the
put it-
parable?
Yeah, you can just put the link in
Sheep
there.
and goats.
But it's just hilarious.
Because
And
that shit ain't
everyone
happened yet.
should subscribe to Truth Factory. It's pretty awesome. But and there's a part in this that says everyone hates you. Yeah, they hate you because you're evil. Da, da, da. It's just so funny, and it's not just like, I know like some people might say, oh well, you know, it won't let me link. It won't let me link actually anything.
Oh, that's
Let me try again.
Maybe put like a
Yeah, you know, that's a
space,
good
like,
idea.
in HTTP
That's a
or
good idea. I'm gonna
something.
do that. Okay, so. Oh no, it like Shadow Bandit or whatever. I don't even know.
Oh my god, I hate YouTube.
That's cool.
They don't let you like keep it open. Like there's like default.
how
things in
is
place that you
I'll
can't
just put
control.
sub to Truth
Assange,
Factory.
Goat?
Your boot is on fire. That's the name of the song.
Your boot is
Yeah.
on fire.
Oh no, your house. Wait, hold on. What is
Oh, your house is on fire.
there? But there's like a part where she has her boot on fire. I'm just enamored with it. Anyway.
Yeah, I like political satire. I think that if people like, because I mean, some people, depending on what they're looking for, like whether it's comedy or whatever. I mean, they attempt to do it with things like Saturday Night Live, but I don't really think that Saturday Night Live, I think, is forced, and when it's forced, it's not funny. But yeah, no, I definitely, whatever it is, whether it's analysis or comedy, anything to get more people to realize what's going on with the Clintons, I'm all for.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah, I think it's about 9:15. So I mean, we usually go for about an hour. So anything you want to like close with, or how are you working on the fifth book? Or
yeah, it'll be out soon. And you know, I'm on all these different platforms now.
Yeah.
Have you tried Steam It?
No.
Good. I mean, it's cool. It's
good.
Steam It, and then there's Vimeo, which is okay. I'm on BitChute now.
Yeah. I like
have you tried Minds.com?
It's massive.
Yeah.
And then Gab. So those 5 I tried, and yeah. So, but I want to thank you for this opportunity, and it was always great speaking with you. And the political power that the Clintons have and their control of the Democratic Party, that's going to change drastically in the next month or two. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see all the people who say, you know, let's stop talking about the Clintons, because nobody's going to stop talking about them.
No. The only people that would want people to stop talking about Hillary Clinton are the Clintons, or the people that are being paid to shill for them. It's not even it's not even a reasonable position. Why would you not? Either people are not interested and don't give a fuck, or people are interested. The idea of this, it's so unnatural. It's so unorganic to just say stop talking about this. That's ridiculous.
Absolutely, and it also shows that there's no rebuttal to it. Yeah. So
Oh yeah, they never address any of the issues. The only time that they will address them are the outright lie, like Joy Reid will outright lie about aspects of uranium-1 to try to, I guess, deflect attention from the fact that her queen is.
I mean,
in
really
trouble.
quickly, it's not even like the interesting thing about Joy Reid is that, and people who defend uranium-1, not just Joy Reid, others, they're like, well, the 130 million, that was given before the deal. It's like, who the fuck cares? You get 130 million, like, and you tell somebody, you know what, facilitate what I want you to facilitate 5-6 years down the line, or 3 years down the line, they'll do it. So
it's like the deal they're looking for and the standard they're looking for with Trump and Putin for the hacking. There it is, but that it's delivered on a platter and it's provable. It is absolutely there. It's amazing. Because they would accept that as evidence. They were talking about going into '93 and acting as if there was a deal.
Oh man, some people want more hardness.
Some sort of future. You would have. It was the '90s, so you had to have 900 numbers. It would have required like someone like Miss Cleo to see into the future. Because I don't even think Putin was the president of Russia at that point, and so they would have had to determine that Putin would become president. Right? It was Yeltsin. It ridiculous. So of course, 6 years that would be perfect for them. Incredible. All right, well, it's been fantastic talking to you once again, and feel free anytime you want to come on. We'll
absolutely, I look forward to it again. HB, you have a great evening, and thank you so much.
Anytime, dude. Have a great night. All right, bye-bye. All right, that was H.A. Goodman, and let's see here. Let me, so I'm going to go into the, see if there's any super chats, and then I will set up for the news stream. And if I can get this site to work, the GOP, we're going to have a list of the fake news awards. And it just looks like that so many people are trying to get on the site that it's crashed. Now, if anyone, I don't know, somehow saved the site and has a copy that's not attached, let me know. But otherwise, I'll just keep clicking it and see what we have. I wonder if they have like different categories. It would be great if there was like a very specific lineup of categories, and that would be amazing. And then who would win? How do you even give these awards out? This would be an almost impossible task to decide who is the worst in corporate media. I mean,
well, I got it there.
I'll put these in. You have to put Stelter in there.
Paste first.
Jesus.
Who we did in order to break this up? Smart move.
So, Trevor RN said, Alex Jones is apparently going to cover it live. Wonder if we'd get in trouble for analyzing
not
Alex
found.
Jones' feed. I imagine that that would be
probably change my IP right about now.
Although that's probably, I don't know if he was able to get to the site before it crashed.
Trumpus Maximus.
Let me, so that was the Hard News Network. Let me go into the Hard Bastard channel. So yeah, Stelter has to be in there. Let's see, who else? I mean, Don Lemon has to be in there. If they're going by anchors, I really don't know how they're going to be doing it. I would have loved a show. That really, I would have covered that live if it was an actual show. I thought it was going to be. Let's see here. All right, so let me get into Hard Bastard Super Chats. And then, yeah, like I said, I'll be back in 15, 20 minutes. Set up for the first news stream. All right. Bunch for the 17th here. Let's see. Christy Jacoby, HB, and Teodros. Two of my favorites. I couldn't stay, but I'll watch later on. Thank you very much, Christy. That was a fantastic discussion. Prophet Muhammad. Oh, Prophet Muhammad. Peace be upon you. Spiritual advising. On the Hard Bastard channel, a truly united America scares the ruling elites in Washington. That is true. Civil rights used to send a powerful message, marching in Sunday, best chanting but not looting. Thank you, Prophet Muhammad. Peace be upon you. Uncle Bobbity. In Charlottesville, she was a true revolutionary. She revolved head over heels because the media stoked the fire of anger to try to get Trump out. By the way, you guys know that I have never been one of the people that gave any credence to the idea that, well, not that I didn't give any credence to, I didn't see evidence of any sort of scuffle or reason for what the hell was his name? I don't remember the guy's name, but the guy that drove the Charger. I came across an article. I don't know if I have it set up for tonight, but that apparently there was some sort of somebody from Antifa pointed a gun at the Charger driver. Now, if that's true, I do think the people who were arguing that from the beginning, they didn't argue. I don't recall them arguing that there was a gun pointed at the driver. But they did argue there was some sort of, I don't know, scuffle or something. If it turns out that this is true, well, that is something. Like I said, I'm going to have to make sure that I can verify this. But obviously, if someone's pointing a gun at you, you're going to try to get the fuck out of there as soon as possible. So that's just something to consider. And I'll let you know what I find. And if you have any further information on that, send it to me and I'll go over it. Anna's Bitch Bun, that's a new account for the Bitch Bun of Anna Kasparian. It's interesting how we have objects or parts of people that show up on stream. We have Anna's Bitch Bun, of course, Donna Brazil's Big Black Cock, things such as that. But Anna's Bitch Bun.
There's a lot of these things coming through.
Happy New Year, you beautiful, beautiful bitches. Well, thank you very much. Anna's Bitch Bun. Pickle jars for Hillary. How big is Hillary Rodham Cankles? Yes, if it was Donald Trump, they would be making a very big deal out of the Cankles. And last one, poor Uric. Trump equals GOAT. I was a Sanders delegate, and Trump was the establishment wrecking ball I truly wanted, but didn't realize could ever possibly exist, thanks to the DNC's corruption for waking us up. That is a good point. And I think a lot of people share that sentiment, and it's one of the reasons. So you take like poor Uric, for example. There's no way he will be sheepdog back into the Democratic Party. And I see people like this on Twitter all the time. I see people like this in the chat all the time. And the DNC is really going to try to get these people back, and it's laughable that you think that you would be able to do this after what you did. They're clueless. They are completely and utterly clueless. All right, so I'm going to go into the break, and then I'm going to set up, and we will get into the new stream. We're definitely, we've been streaming for a while, and we're going to be streaming for a while later. So I will see you guys in a...
Hey, baby! I mean, I'm going to take a break. Hello YouTube, my name's James PFP. Hey, I've been streaming here for about 3 hours. It's coming up on 11 local time. You can see the time listed right here if I point ahead. That's my time. I keep my own calendar. It's part of my charm, I think. At least I'm saying so in this story and I'm sticking to it. There's a chat here for my channel. I'm participating in a chat on another channel and rebroadcasting through, so that's why we're in an intermission period. I'm getting a cup of tea. Got nothing else on my board here at the moment, although earlier I was using the radio earlier in the stream and listening to some local traffic which I happened to catch. And I like demonstrating some of these things because the software and the hardware is really, really cheap and available. So I think it's good for people to understand how accessible some of this technology is. In the meantime, having a discussion here on Hard Bastards channel and fighting hard on the religion issue. Because I think we'll get to a lot more truth and light if we stop pretending we know everything. Because I sure as fuck don't. Oh, and I mean that. Or I wouldn't have said that. These awards are too funny. I haven't loaded, whatchamacallit yet, Discord. I would imagine the links in Discord, but I saw the link go up here earlier, so let's go looking. Arrah. Someone was saying here in the chat about James A. Fields that during the minute where we're not sure what happened, because like I can't say I know what happened. During that minute of time between the time that he went over the mall crossover the first time and reversed back up the hill and then came back down, before he crossed the mall crossover the second time, reversing, they were talking about what might have happened during that period. What they were talking about was someone might have pointed a gun at Fields.
Real quick, I'm going to stop the stream so I can change the titles to the new stream, and it'll return in about 1 to 3 minutes.
Flipping the name over. Cool. I'm going to go back to YouTube for a second. Leave the chat open. This is the Hard Bastard chat here. I'm getting my information from the chat. Got posted twice. It was in one of the super chats, wasn't it? Right here. We'll move spas. Paste. Highly anticipated. Published through the GOP. GOP.com. Highly anticipated 2017 Fake News Awards. Team GOP. Published the 17th. 2017 was a year of unrelenting bias, unfair news coverage, and even downright fake news. Studies have shown that over 90% of the media's coverage of President Trump is negative. Below are the winners of the 2017 Fake News Awards. The number one, New York Times' Paul Krugman claimed that on the day of President Trump's historic landslide victory, the economy would never recover. Paul Krugman says the markets would never recover from Trump. Dow hits a record low. Trump has been tweeting about this the last couple weeks. Last couple months, really. ABC, number two, ABC News' Brian Ross chokes and sends markets in a downward spiral with a false report. ABC demotes Brian Ross after bungled report on Trump, Russia said. Trump, Russia. ABC's report published and the response to the market afterward. Number 3. I'll go down to the bottom here. I want to see the chat on this side. Number 3. CNN falsely reports that candidate Donald Trump and his son Donald J. Trump Jr. has access to hacked documents from WikiLeaks. Had special access in advance of anybody else. CNN botches date, inaccurately reports Trump campaign at a WikiLeaks sneak peek via Fox News. Number 4. Time falsely reported that President Trump had removed the bust of Martin Luther King Jr. from the Oval Office. Fox News exclusive picture here. Number 5. Number 5, Washington Post falsely reported that President's massive sold-out rally in Pensacola, Florida was empty. Dishonest reporter showed pictures of empty arena hours before crowds started pouring in. And this is at Dave Weigel and the Washington Post, both on Twitter. Put out a phony photo of an empty arena hours before I arrived and at the venue, with thousands of people outside on their way in. Real photos now show as I spoke. Packed house, many people unable to get in. Demand apology and a retraction from fake news WAPO. That's off of Trump's Twitter feed. Number 6, CNN falsely edited a video to make it appear President Trump defiantly overfed fish during a visit with the Japanese Prime Minister. Japanese Prime Minister actually led the way with the feeding. Watch it. Look at him. Yeah. Tomo arigato. Number 7. CNN falsely reported about Anthony Scaramucci's meeting with a Russian, but retracted it due to, quote, significant breakdown in process, unquote. 3 CNN employees resign over retracted story on Russian ties. Number 8. Newsweek falsely reported that the Polish First Lady Agata Kornhauser-Duda did not shake President Trump's hand. Clearly, she did. Number 9. CNN falsely reported that the former FBI Director James Comey would dispute President Trump's claim that he was told he is not under investigation. That he was told he is not under. Sources tell CNN Comey to testify he never told Trump. Number 10. Russia collusion. Boys over here are having a howl and a hoot. New York Times, number 10, falsely reported or falsely claimed on the front page that the Trump administration had hidden a climate report. New York Times guilty of large screw-up on climate change story via the Washington Post. Number 11, and last but not least, Russia collusion. Russia collusion is perhaps the greatest hoax perpetrated on the American people. There is no collusion. Well, now that collusion with Russia is proving to be a total hoax, and the only collusion is with Hillary Clinton and the FBI, Russia, the fake news media, mainstream, and the phony new book are hitting out at every new front imaginable. They should try winning an election. Sad. Via Trump's Twitter feed on the 5th. That's 12 days ago. While the media spent 90% of the time focusing on negative coverage or fake news, I guess that's what held it up from the original announced date till now. The last 12 days has been the book. Among other things. Sorry. Focusing on negative coverage or fake news. I'll post the link to this in my own chat. In case anyone hasn't heard it yet, or if you happen to be watching. There's an archive link so you can see this months, years later. Boys are calling me back in here. They're doing it by talking about Don Lemon while I'm not there, and I don't like that. 3 Mile Lemon. While the media spent 90% of the time focused on negative coverage or fake news, the president has been getting results. Number one, the economy has created nearly 2 million jobs, gained over $8 trillion in wealth since the president's inauguration. 2, African Americans and Hispanics are enjoying the lowest unemployment rate in recorded history. Number 3, the president signed historic tax cuts and relief for hardworking Americans not seen since President Reagan. Number 4, President Trump's plan to cut regulations exceeded, quote, 2 out of every 1 in mandate, issuing 22 deregulatory actions for every 1 new regulatory action. 22 against, or 22 to 1 is the rate. 5, the president has unleashed an American energy boom by ending Obama-era regulations, approving the Keystone Pipeline, auctioning off millions of new acres for energy exploration, and opening up ANWR. 6, ISIS is in retreat, having been crushed in Iraq and Syria. 7, President Trump followed through on his promise to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of the State of Israel and instructed the State Department to begin relocate the embassy. Number 8, with President Trump's encouragement, more member nations are paying their fair share in the common defense in the NATO alliance. Damn it. Not that, I mean, forced into it, but I got to tell you, I don't trust Trudeau myself. Uncle Bobbity, that's tragic. No bullshit. Today, the bathrooms in the art department were changed to say all genders bathroom on them, and they are open to everyone. Number 9, signed the Veterans Accountability and Whistleblower Protection Act to allow senior officials in the Veterans Association, I think that would have to be the VA, to fire failing employees and establishes safeguards to protect whistleblowers. Number 10, President Trump kept his promise and appointed Associate Justice Neil Gorsuch to the U.S. Supreme Court. Some gas don't need the light. Ha ha ha, they're talking about pissing on the floor. Problem with piss is, of course, it's you can figure out who it is from the piss. I'm pretty sure. Wouldn't be that difficult. You could certainly narrow it down. Hell, it's been pissed in public. What's the likelihood a woman did this? A lot lower than normal. Yeah, I'm following through on the hard bastard here. You can see it right on YouTube. Hey, I think they've redone the stream by now. Intermission. I'm going to reload this. Papa. Oh, live stream still offline.
Hey guys, let me know if you can hear me, because the weird thing is it looks like I'm not getting any sort of streaming on my end, and when I look it up on the Hard Bastard channel, it says that it live streams online. Now it says it's offline.
Coming on and off. Yep. Christine K. Here comes another one.
So you can hear me, but it's weird. Why is that freezing? My internet should be fine. I guess I'll do a speed test, but I can't even get it to play. It's on and off. All right, interesting. So let me do a speed test and see what the hell's going on here.
None of this would be happening if Hillary was president. Do some speed. Yeah, this clearly calls for Benzedrine. Degenerates in the chat all agree. I'm going to be honest about it. I'm only reading out what I read there. I only believe what? A vanishingly small fraction when you really get down to it. The bias. Uncle Bobby. Let's go looking for other funny things. Ghost? Oh, there is a ghost here. In the words of great early coiler, damn it, I'm 4 days and 6 hours late to work. You might never be going. Gee whiz, did that close altogether? Must have.
All right, interesting. So let me do a speed test.
Try reload. There. Delete your browser history. I wonder what is happening for him. It's been a while since this occurred for him, but it does occur infrequently. I'm streaming because it's my right for the time being. It's funny how this works. I should start reading all these out. I hear HB speaking Russian. Clear your browser data. Global warming. Delete your new porn downloads. Probably best to just reboot. Remove Russian backdoor. Format C, then push yes. Delete your browser history. That's the second one in two different people. Hitler did nothing wrong has been cited. He moved to Dvorsky. Dvorsky. Delete win ... /C. Hair clogging up the pipes. Oh wow, this totally locked down. Hair clogging up the pipes. Pour champagne on the keyboard, please. Somewhere in the world, HB is listening to a computer-generated voice telling him about how he can pay $400 to the Russians to decrypt his computer files. Rub a magnet on the screen. Fucking photons. How do they quack? And then scream. It's Umbrella Corp. You know what it is? I can tell you exactly what it is. I suspect some people don't like losing to Occam's razor. They don't like recognizing that iron, even metaphorical iron, puts them down. It's the Canuter valves. $20-sided. Get a D20. Get a D20, reboot if you roll 17 or better. Three and 20. Whoa, I didn't really think of that before. 3 and 20. So there's 1 and 20. 1/20th part a nickel. 3 and 20, therefore 15. I can hear you. Someone got through to him. I'm gonna try reloading. Mel Gibson was streamed live 2 hours ago. It was only an hour long. Spy. Looks like it's back. The stream chat didn't help. Funny, right? Please don't trigger William. Tickled, not for dickin'. Ooh. I'm gonna stop my stream, but I'll be right back.